Hi, this is BK for manfulwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents offline teach kids to look, talk, and feel great and do the same themselves, and to help people take great online info they find and share it offline as better people making better places to live. So check out manfulwars.com for more. But this video is called, excuse me, MCW Episode 1, or Men Can Worldwide Episode 1, Corona Crisis. Will Canadian men help their people learn from U.S. independent media? Will Canadian men help their people learn from U.S. independent media? And basically, I'm Canadian myself in Toronto, got lots of footage, locked down in solitary confinement like everybody else, but I did go for my 1 hour walk like everybody on the Prison Planet or prisonplanet.com gets 1 hour of exercise or something like that. And I have been for the last 8 days filming martial law getting worse and worse and worse in Toronto as less and less people are out, less and less places are open, less and less places to sit, less and less places to go. And you've got the Canadian government on TV, people like Prime Minister Justin Trudeau or Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland or whatever, and Health Minister Patty Hadju and so on. And they are doing what the Canadian media has done for years. They are talking to Canadians like we're children. It's gross, it's boring, it's annoying. I hated it since I was a kid. Used to read the paper, used to be kind of bored by it sometimes. I'm still political, still smart. I want to be interested in something. But the Canadian media does a very bad job of making things interesting, and there's not a lot of independent Canadian media out there, right? And and so, it's important because the government's treating us like children. We know Canadians have it tough. We know things are really bad, and we know things are going to get worse, and we're all going to have to suffer. It's like, whoa, wait a second. It's the flu. It's killed a few thousand 80-year-olds who are already sick, and they might have died from the corona or some other, or whatever they were sick with, right? And yeah, I'm sure it's a serious crisis. There's something going on. We should be responsible, quarantine for a bit, keep away from each other for a bit. But we can't try and save 100,000 people from the flu and kill 10 million with a depression, which is on the table right now. If everything's shut down, nobody can go anywhere, and all the supply chains start breaking, and you're like, well, you can still go to the store for an hour a day till this is over. Yeah, what if there's nothing there, right? And the Canadian government, and the Canadian media kind of work in lockstep. I mean, people know we've got CBC, the state-funded broadcaster, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, much like the BBC in England, and the CBC gets $1.5 billion a year. And to get that money, they don't criticize the government very much. Some people used to do some good work, but especially in the last 5, 6, years or so, and especially in the age of Trump, we know how much the sort of liberal mainstream media is sort of attacking nationalism and populism and all sorts of alternative ideas, and they're getting more and more homogenized, right? Um, and so boring, annoying. Trudeau gave the Canadian media last year, they gave him a $600 million bailout. Say, well, media's doing tough and times are tough. People aren't buying papers. So we're going to give you $600 million. Now, in exchange for that $600 million, the Canadian media is certainly not going to question Trudeau. Then they're not going to get those weekly checks at the Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, et cetera, for a couple of $100,000 to line their pockets and so on. So I'll give you an example. Prime Minister Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were both asked the same question by, I think, two different journalists. And in fairness to the journalists, they did ask the question. People are trying to do good work in bad systems, right? Not all. Some are bad people in bad systems. Others are good people in bad systems. And they'll kind of wriggle around and try and get some good stuff done, right? And so two journalists asked Prime Minister Trudeau and asked Chrystia Freeland, hey, Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, Canadians are suffering, losing their jobs, economy's tanking, and so on. And yet, you people, the cabinet ministers, the members of parliament, of the Canadian Parliament, you are due a cost of living increase in April when it comes to how much you get paid. So you get paid $120,000, $150,000 a year. and we're going to give you, 10% more of that or whatever, right? Because things have gone up, there's inflation, and so on. So you already make 150,000 a year and you deserve a 10% whatever raise or 10-20% raise, right? That's a cost of living increase that they kind of gave themselves. And so two different reporters asked two different, top Canadian government officials, the Prime Minister and his second in command, basically, are you going to cancel your cost of living increase in April of 2020, since many Canadians are suffering and we shouldn't be, wasting Canadian dollars that can go to help Canadians who are doing a lot worse than you. Basically, they didn't say that specifically, but they said, are you going to cancel the cost of living increase? And what did Trudeau say? What did Chrystia Freeland say? They said the same thing. Nothing. They said, well, we know Canadians are having a tough time right now, and the government is doing the best job it can to mobilize all our resources to keep people safe at this time. And we're warning people to stay indoors and be careful. We don't want to take stricter measures than that, but we will if we have to. It's like, what about the cost of living increase? However, the same journalists who asked the question did not ask a follow-up question. They didn't say, excuse me, Mr. Prime Minister, you didn't say shit. Right? Or Chrystia Freeland, Miss Foreign Minister, you didn't say shit, right? So, can you, they do that with Trump. There's bad journalists attacking Trump, but they go back and forth, and Trump, to his credit, is not a dictator. He does it with them. He's like, they ask him, and he says, I think that's a bad question, blah, 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 or good question, right? But he actually goes back and forth with hostile reporters, whereas in Canada, much more homogenized on a mainstream media level. So major issues there, because real crisis or not, we've got to worry about the virus, martial law policies, and the depression, and a total crackdown. For example, Bill Morneau, the Canadian finance minister, just announced that he wants to give himself unlimited powers to tax and make rules without parliamentary approval because of this crisis, and yet he wants those powers extended until December of 2021. So either that means this is a total power grab, and even though this crisis will only last for a month or two maybe, they'll still keep that power afterwards for another year and a half, or it means the Canadian government is setting up to quarantine us or semi-quarantine us or whatever for the next 18 months, as has been speculated about in the mainstream media when it comes to how long we'll need to get past this crisis. And so that's a huge problem, right? And there's been some pushback on that. Somebody didn't like it and they leaked it to Global News, who, to their credit, is probably the best mainstream Canadian news source that I've found, right? They stream press conferences live. They stream Trump's press conferences and appearances and even rallies live. So even though they may editorially take some positions against him, they're fair in terms of covering the guy who happens to be president. And they do some good work like this, where somebody who's probably a decent member of the Liberal Party or somebody involved in drafting this type of legislation leaked a copy of it to Global News. And then Global News put it out there, and then other people are reacting to it, including other independent media and some politicians coming out against it, including some conservative politicians saying there's no way we will allow the finance minister to have unlimited taxation and rule-making and policy-making powers until December of 2021, which is over a year and a half away. That's crazy, and it's a huge overreach. So that's what we are worried about in Canada, and people around the world are worried about this, except for, I think, Africa and South America, where they don't give a shit about the coronavirus, and we should try and figure out why they don't give a shit about it, and the rest of us have to shit ourselves all day and all night about it, and not leave our homes, which is really stinky. But I won't go into a whole jag on that. When it comes to this, will Canadian men help their, how did I phrase it here? Will Canadian men help their people learn from U.S. independent media, right? And as part of sort of Coronavirus Fight Club, I've got details below in the description box. I was with a group called Toronto Truth Seekers back in 2009. You can see all the evidence below. And we successfully beat the 2009 swine flu pandemic. We beat that locally, offline, by winning the offline InfoWar in the center of Toronto, Canada, as a group of about 15, 20 Canadians who got together every Saturday. We first met for lunch. We met for lunch before this, right? Before this started off as a meetup, right? Just to show you the sort of organic genesis of this. Somebody put up on meetup.com or something, hey, meetup, let's get together, fellow patriots in the city. We know we look at stuff on the internet, we watch documentaries and so on. This is before social media, or at least before it really took off, or probably before it actually. YouTube was around, but social media I don't think was around. And so, hey, let's instead of leaving comments on YouTube videos, let's actually get together and let's talk about what we see on the internet, right? You're red pills, you're red pills versus blue balls kind of guy or gal. And so we get together every Saturday near Bloor and Spadina around 1 p.m., hang out for a couple hours, come if you want, go if you whatever. And through that process, we built bonds, right? We built bonds with each other. We built friendships. We built relationships, right? We got to know each other better. We'd meet every Saturday, the people that were interested in this sort of thing. And then from there, we couldn't just keep talking about it. You get sick of just talking about all this shit going on, whether it's, smart shit that you know about bad shit, or maybe some good helpful shit like health news or whatever you pass on. There's still a next level to that, right? So what we decided to do was, as polite patriots, we decided to set up a meet and greet table, possibly an umbrella, some signage taped to the table, right? And on that table, we had boxes with posters and flyers and boxes of DVDs. And at the time, during the swine flu, H1N1 swine flu pandemic scare, you wonder why they call this one a virus. There was the bird flu, oh, that's silly. The swine flu, oh, that's silly. And people were outside. We dealt with thousands of people during the swine flu pandemic scare in 2009. They were all over the place. Nobody did anything different, right? But it wasn't huge here either. There were some cases, but it wasn't huge. But this time they're calling it the coronavirus, so it's much more scary. But anyway, so we had posters, flyers, DVDs at the table, signage, boom, and we were there. Plus, we also had, some of us would take turns handing out little things, little pieces of paper like this. These are actually from 2009, right? Don't get shot, right? We like health tips, so we should know that all vaccines may cause brain damage from chemicals overstimulating our immune system, blah, 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 blah. All vaccines should be avoided. New mandatory vaccines don't make sense. People who choose to take a swine flu shot shouldn't mind if other people don't, because their shot is supposed to protect them from the swine flu. Please visit vran.org for legal exemption forms, vaccinetruth.com, falseflagflu.com, and generationrescue.org, and please pass it on. So this is an example of one of those there. When it comes to these vaccine exemption forms as well, being in downtown Toronto at Yonge and Dundas, right outside the Eaton Centre on the southwest corner, we are in the center of Toronto, which has about 3 million people downtown and about 5 million in the greater Toronto area, ballpark. And we had people coming from all over the city of Toronto, from east, Scarborough, from west, Mississauga, from north, Markham. Parents were coming up to us because we also printed thousands of 8.5 by 11 8.5 by 11 Ontario government or Canadian government vaccine exemption forms. Ontario government, actually, I believe, as I recall. Vaccine exemption forms. So that parents were coming up to us, hey, are you the guys with the vaccines? Exemption forms? Yeah, can I have 2, please? Right? Just rushing up to us, right? And we were like, oh, sure, yeah, no problem. Look, we'll give you a little piece of paper here, too, which has vran.org on it, vran.org, right? And you can go there, you can download them yourself. They're just PDFs, right? These people, they're legal government stuff, right? You take them, you review them, you sign them, you send them to the school. If the school aren't jerks, then they'll take them and they'll respect you. If they are jerks, they might try and sneak a vaccine in your kid anyway, which sucks. But if they do, you gave them an exemption form, you've got some legal remedy, so they probably won't try it, right? So we were there, and we were just polite patriots, right? Mostly guys, mostly men, right? Mostly men. A couple of girls, right? No pressure, that's gross. But guys who don't fight are gross. They're just uncomfortable, make you uncomfortable. You have to make them, people can't respect each other, communicate well. So you can't force girls to fight because that's gross. They want to get into it, they like it, cool, no problem. They don't, But men can help each other man up, and then they can help, women and children chill out, and then good to go, right? And and we were polite patriots. A couple of girls there, no doubt, but mostly guys, and totally fine, right? And what you had was on beautiful summer days in Toronto, beautiful summer days, right? You had 10, 15, 20, depending, typically 15 to 20 about there, right? About 15 to 20, sometimes 15, sometimes 20, sometimes 25, but around there. Polite, patriotic Canadians hanging out, getting along with each other, right? Just talking to each other, or standing in front of the table and just politely smiling, leaving these in front of people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And people just, oh, okay, grab one, right? And I said to some people, this is on my new flyer too. I said to some people, hey, look, if it's stupid, laugh. If it's smart, enjoy. What does it matter, right? It's a little piece of paper, right? It's a little piece of junk mail, right? And so people think, oh, sure, whatever, put it in your pocket, right? So that was part of it. Now, some people, seeing us getting along with each other, not bothering each other, not bothering anybody else, people just milling around right outside a huge mall in downtown Toronto, the Eaton Centre, near Yonge and Dundas, just milling around. They just doing their own thing. They'd notice our big setup and table, or they might not. Might say hi, otherwise never mind, right? Might just want to grab something and go. Yeah, I'm busy, a lot of errands to run today, or I don't know what you're doing, or I don't care, or I don't want to be weird, or just grab this and go. No problem. God, right? Other people would be like, come on over to the table, have conversations about what they know, right? Look at some of the stuff we have, maybe take a flyer or a DVD. We had a whole bunch of different ones. I'm just sharing these ones for practical purposes today because they're small and easy and cheap to print and share. So they're super practical. These 8 per 8.5 by 11 page or 10 per 8.5 by 11 page flyers are really easy. They're non-threatening, right? They're just a little, 1.5 by 3 inch piece of paper, right? So, and this one's a little bit different. It says if we don't know, we have problems. If we do know, we have solutions. And it basically says the same thing as the last one. And the new one has a different message on it, which I'll show you in a sec. So we did that, and people were happy about it. Occasionally, we had a couple of shrill, bitchy idiots who'd come over and freak out on us, right? Shrill, bitchy idiots would come over and they'd freak out, yell at us, blah, blah, blah. But because we were polite patriots, getting along with each other, getting along with everybody else, or not bothering people, not being bothered, just try to be better people, making a better place to live, right? Cool? Down? Here, enjoy. Not, none of our business to bother you on a nice day, right? Polite Canadians. So, a couple of shrill, bitchy idiots would come over, they'd scream at us, they'd freak out. But here's the thing. They looked like shit compared to us. So they looked like shit. The people are, they're crazy! Ooga booga booga! How dare you! Ooga booga booga! Right? There was an audience of thousands of people around who could be like, okay, so they're doing that. They're organized, they're professional and polite about it. That idiot's just screaming and had a friggin' fit because he saw them or doesn't like what they're doing. And who's cool? Who should we trust? Should we believe the shrill, bitchy idiot freaking out? Or should we believe the polite patriots getting along with each other and everyone else and politely sharing information or politely not bothering people, saying hi or ignoring people, depending on what they're interested in, right? So that's important because otherwise the only people offline are like Antifa, or people just protest. They get together, they yell, they make a big stink, and then they go home. And other people, third parties, either don't like it or don't care or don't know what the hell those people yelling are on about, right? So a big mess, we this, we that, blah, blah, yeah. That's the protest rock concert model, right? That's meant to kind of herd people together, get them to expel a lot of energy with each other, and then, all right, made a big stink, right? The media, didn't cover it much, right? Independent media may have covered some of it. We're happy to see the numbers of people, right? You can get 1,000 people out at a protest as opposed to 15 to 20, like what we were doing. But if those same 1,000 people or 10,000 people were to be involved in the offline info war, especially guys, who can move safely and effectively, even in today's conditions, and handle cops and critics, don't, or whack jobs out there, messed up by what's going on, right, more effectively. Don't cost somebody else their job. Don't screw over a cop or a security guard when it comes to what they have to do. But typically, what we found is if you're, polite patriots, cops are usually fine. They usually deal with liars and jerks and scumbags and whatever. So when it comes to us, they don't worry about us. We don't worry about them typically. And if they have to, because of some bylaw or some this or some property owner says something or whatever, then they'll bother you. Or if their bosses, if there's martial law and their bosses are assholes and their bosses are assholes and their bosses are making them act like assholes and then they treat us like like assholes, right? Like that's different, right? But otherwise they're typically fine, right? And so even today, men can move kind of safely and effectively where they can, when they can. And I'll get to that in more detail. But I just wanted to share that, right? Because that's the ideal conditions. That's the ideal conditions in terms of sharing information with your neighbors. It could happen in Toronto. It could happen in Montreal. It could happen in Vancouver. It could happen in Paris, France. It could happen in New York. It could happen in Los Angeles. It could happen in Nigeria. It could happen in Tokyo, Japan. It could happen in New Delhi, India. It could happen in Portugal, right? Where we're cool. We're not out here to yell and make a big stink and get everyone to look at us and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but we want to either have a discussion with you if you'd like, or help you think for yourself. Give you something that you can take a look at. And like I say to people, I see some giant guy who's like, I don't know, some big, I'm average height, average weight, average build. But you see some giant monster guy there who's a little scared of it, smile. And I go, hey, don't worry about it, man. Look, it's cheap. It's a little piece of paper. If you like it, great. It's great. Maybe it helps, right? If you don't like it, just throw it out. Who cares? So it's no big deal. Right? Don't get your manties in a bunch. I don't know if I can even look at this little piece of paper. And don't get your panties in a bunch, right? It's fine, right? Maybe they're making sense. That might help. Maybe they're not. Maybe we can laugh at it. Who cares, right? So I want to make that point clear because it's a philosophy that's worked for years, and I've tested it in different ways and different places and so on, and everyone's fine with it. They're like, I could either freak out because you're weird or different, or this is different than what I usually hear, but you got a good point there, right? Stupid, laugh, smart, enjoy. Done, right? So I want to make that point because here in the offline InfoWar days, online is fine. I like online. But online is also censored into digital ghettos, right? You're talking to people who are often like-minded. You've got some incredibly talented and creative and ballsy patriots who often spend time re-informing or re-entertaining each other as opposed to reaching out to new people, right? So, if YouTube censors, okay, go to BitChute. Who's on BitChute? I'm on BitChute, but a lot of like-minded people on BitChute. You might meet some newbies here and there. There is a spillover effect, and people do share things, but it's not as fast and direct and effective as the offline InfoWar. So that's more key. Online's great, but the offline InfoWar must supplement that, right? Or they're just typing to strangers on Twitter, right, or wherever, or Gab, whatever. And so the offline InfoWar is key, right? Now, so that's in perfect conditions. In today's conditions, right? In today's conditions, and I'm going to get into some specific media sources in a sec, which relates to this, because I'm going to give people some options, and I'll show you what's going on. But in today's COVID-19 coronavirus crisis pandemic for coronavirus fight club, right? It's a little more tricky, right? But if the people in Hong Kong could stand up to the Chinese Communist government or Communist Chinese government and their mafia arms, because they had some triad gangs and others, that going in there to beat up the protesters and intelligence agents and spooks and blah, 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 blah. And Hong Kong is kind of in a tough position where, well, we're semi-sovereign. We used to be with the British, and then we got our independence, but not really independence. We just got handed over to China, who left us semi-independent. So we've got to negotiate being cool with China because we're kind of under their protection and control. But we got to try and be cool with our people who are used to sort of Western style democracy and capitalism and freedom and so on. So it's a balancing act, right? Um, and if the people in Hong Kong could scrap against their government nobly and bravely when it comes to teenagers, to old people, and so on, then certainly people in Canada, people in America, people in Western countries, and people worldwide, frankly, can do stuff like this to mitigate some of their government actions, right? Because it's not like the people aren't part of the government, right? The people puts the government in, they elect the government. The government's supposed to do a good job. The media is supposed to hold them accountable. The media is supposed to tell us what the government's up to. We're supposed to reflect how we feel about it. And it's supposed to be an ongoing process of people influencing, what their government's up to and how they're doing and how people feel about it. It's not just, that's the government, next 4 or 5 years, just do whatever they say, in the media and so on, right? So this is an organic part of that process. And you're just trying to help people think for themselves, right? Right now, during this crisis, you've got a lot of people, wondering what to do with their free time. I have to stay home, so bored. Okay, what do you want to do? You want to watch those 27 episodes of that next Netflix show again? Yeah, sure, might as well. Nothing else to do. Let's watch The Wire again. Let's watch Breaking Bad again. Let's watch this again. Let's watch that again, right? And it totally makes sense. And those are their habits. It's hard to break people out of those habits. Or excuse me, let's play video games, or let's whatever. Or the sports. I like basketball. The sports folks are like putting on old shows. They're talking about old games. They're talking about it's sort of a real retro kind of thing where it's like, okay, before all this happened, we had cool stuff that we liked and a cool place to live that we liked. And so, yeah, let's look at that stuff, right? So people are definitely going to be distracted, and as we all know, it is difficult to sort of quote unquote, wake people up. Sorry, stray hairs. To quote unquote wake people up. A period, full stop, right? To red pill people, red pill, the blue balled folks, guys. Just want to act silly or bitchy or whatever, whatever. It's hard, right? However. Like I said, with our Truth Seekers example in 2009, right? And this is all codified, right? When the mainstream media makes everybody interested in a topic, and when the mainstream media makes it safe for everybody to talk about a certain topic, so you're not a weirdo, right? You're not a weirdo for bringing this stuff up. This is in the news. It's on TV every day. That is the time to strike while the iron is hot. Because in 2009, if there was no H1N1 swine flu pandemic, right? And we were just talking about 9/11, what really happened there, or UN Agenda 21, what's up with the UN's plan to control the world, herd us into domed compact cities because we're bad for the planet and the rich people can take over, right? What's up with, all sorts of stuff, right? Normally, you wouldn't get nearly as many people interested, right? You still have some. It's still a good idea. You can still do it, right? If you maintain a polite, patriotic presence there long enough, then you'll be cool, right? And people will come around, or they'll at least respect the fact that you're cool, and they can be cool with you, or they can mind their business, and they can learn more if they want, or you're not going to bother them. You're not going to scream at them, "You scum! You're going to kill everybody if you don't learn this. We're all going to die. The Illuminati's going to eat your balls in some dim sum," right? You don't do that. You don't do that. You don't just attack people like that, right? I've done it myself. It sucks. I don't usually do it unless they attack me, right? But otherwise, I don't do it, right? And always polite patriots. Right? Don't bother people. Don't be bothered and be a mess for other people. Keep your self-respect and so on. But when the media makes it cool for people to talk about something, that's when you strike. So right now, information about the coronavirus and possible theories about how bad it is, what's going on, how to stop it, health tips, right? The government just says, okay, officially, we're announcing a pandemic. We're going to have to brace for the next 18 months. This is the worst thing we've ever seen. Oh my God, government, what do we do? You're in charge. You've got experts. You've got unlimited resources. What do we do if this is so bad? You need to wash your hands a lot and stay away from people. That's it. Wash your hands a lot and stay away from people. That's the full weight of official Canadian, American government, other government policies. That's what they came on like 2 weeks ago to tell us all, right? And they haven't advanced much since. That's crazy, right? There's stuff like vitamin C, been around forever, right? There's stuff like vitamin D. You get some vitamin D from the sun, boost your immune system, right? That can help, right? There's stuff like zinc, which is in the drug chloroquine, the malaria drug that's being talked about right now, right? Which has had successful clinical trials in 3 different countries, and they're now bringing it over to other countries. And this is also part of the Canadian media. The Canadian media won't talk about this, right? Trump will mention it, so the American media will pick up on it, and some media will cover it in the U.S. But the Canadian media will not talk about the fact that they found chloroquine, which is an old 50, 60-year-old malaria drug, which has been safe to use for 50, 60 years for the most part. They say you take too much, it'll kill you, but that's with anything, right? So, eat too much lettuce. Nothing but lettuce for a month, you're going to die, right? And lettuce isn't bad for you. It just is what it is, right? With anything. So, they won't say it, or they'll downplay it. They won't talk about the truth, about the fact that chloroquine, along with a couple of other things, that's a short name, there's a longer name, has successfully worked and kills the coronavirus within 3 to 6 days in everybody in 3 different countries they tested it on. And Hollywood celebrity, Asian guy who's on Lost and other shows, he recently had the coronavirus, and he came out with a video saying, I felt like crap, tested, had corona, took this drug with a couple other things, worked great, feel fine, right? The Canadian media is going to downplay that on behalf of the Canadian government, which wants to make things as bad as possible to make us weak and easier to control, because they're globalists. They're selling out to the globalist UN Compact for migration, which guarantees you can leave any country where you're treated bad and you can go to any country you want, because we have to make sure that's true too, right? The Canadian government sold out to the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the international this and that, right? Those people are, why are Canada's borders still open during a crisis? Why is Canada laying off 500,000 people and yet guaranteeing they can bring in foreign workers to work in the fields for lower wages for Canadian agricultural companies, right? As opposed to giving Canadians jobs? Why? Because of that, because of globalism. So nationalism versus globalism is not as strong in Canada. And so it needs to be stronger, and we can look at the American media for more on that. But I won't get into all that. Lots of stuff to say about lots of stuff, focusing on sort of the offline info war and adapting to it these days, right? One thing you can do is, if you are not in a total quarantine, lockdown, martial law situation where you're typically not supposed to leave your house for more than an hour a day or whatever to kind of get essentials or get exercise, right? If you're not in a total martial law, lockdown, quarantine situation, then it's possible that you can still do exactly what we did at Toronto Truth Seekers, which I think is the most effective thing that's ever been done based on everything I've seen over the last 10 years. I'm not bragging, no brag, just fact. If you look at that and you look at everything else that people are doing, lots of great stuff I respect. I'm only saying this stuff because I pay attention to people on YouTube, people on BitChute, people here and there. I see protests done. I see streeters. I see people doing gotcha stuff on the street. I see Owen Schroyer challenging a bunch of bitchy liberal zombies, screaming and freaking out at him while he's cool. And there's armies of them everywhere freaking out. And they actually make everybody else do that. The people, the liberal zombie protesters who freak out, those same ideas, that same thinking makes even normal people kind of messed up and sketchy and each other uncomfortable, and can't respect people, and they can't talk to people they disagree with, right? Because it's, oh no, you can't say that, you can't think that, so don't even say anything, not let's have a discussion. And then they can't talk to each other because what if they disagree? So that's part of the brainwashing. So I respect that stuff, right? But this is different than the gotcha kind of Steven Crowder and other things, the change my mind tables, where you're doing this to film it and put it on the internet. That's the goal. You're trying to catch maybe some interesting smart stuff, but you're also trying to catch some stupid gotcha stuff. Aren't these people crazy? As opposed to, I want to have a real conversation with you, or I want to give you something that will help you research on your own, right? That's what I want to do, right? I don't want to just do this for my sake, for my video, for my channel, for my clicks, for my YouTube revenue, for my subs, whatever, for my Patriot friends. I want to actually engage with you on a deeper level, either informally, here you go, have a nice day, or more formally discussing these things, right? So today, if you're not in a total lockdown situation, you can still do this. But I would recommend you maybe have masks. You have surgical masks if you can find them. I know there's shortages out there, but some people are lying about the shortages. There's really longages out there, a lot more than you'd expect, right? But whatever, mask or bandana or something, cover your, don't cough or cough into it so it doesn't blow everywhere. And you can have hand sanitizer. So if you're in, say, Los Angeles, California is locked down by Governor Gavin Newsom, American Psycho 2. And other parts are locked down. But in some places like Idaho, Kentucky, Oklahoma, or some places in Canada, like Saskatchewan maybe or something, maybe, although I think it's going more national here, you could have people setting up in the middle of town, as long as people are still around, mask, and when it comes to these, just have a little hand sanitizer, right? Just say, oh, what are you folks doing here? Oh, a lot of questions about coronavirus. We're all worried about it. And we're just sharing some information from a variety of people to help people think for themselves. We're all interested in the topic. We're all talking about it. We all want to learn more about it. We all want to speak about it in ways that help each other deal with it and help us get past it when it comes to what's going on, how do we protect our health, and what's the government response, how do we mitigate that to make sure they don't go too far and there aren't corrupt people in there that push their own agenda, which screws us but makes them money or gives them more control, right? So yeah, we just, we're not saying we're right, not saying everybody's right, but we don't all have to agree either. But this may help you think for yourself, and it may be useful for you and your family, right? And so you just, there you go. It's like, oh, sure, I'll take one. So sure, I got some hand sanitizer if you want. You can spray that on your hands, and then wipe it, and then grab this, take it, go, and the hand sanitizer will probably kill whatever might be on this. And you don't have to be paranoid about everything. You don't have to be paranoid about the mail in your mailbox. Can Patriots beat junk mail? If junk mail is not illegal, then we can still do this, right? And we also, at the same time in 2009 and at other times, put up posters everywhere and so on, just getting the word out offline to reach those people that are watching, hours of old Netflix shows they've already seen, to reach those people playing video games, to reach those people who are going to be a giant zombie horde demanding everybody shut up and shut everything down because they're scared of the crisis and the coronavirus and the media scaring them, and just make it stop, just make it stop. Yeah, you have to do this. Okay, fine, just make it stop. You have to do this. Okay, fine, then when will you stop? When will this all stop? Right? You can reach those people, right? And so that's key. And today, I've been walking around for the last sort of 8 days for my even if you're in solitary confinement, like myself, like many of us on the prison planet, as I said, killers and so on, like even they get 1 hour a day to head out there, right? And so if you're out there, especially men, if you're locked up in solitary confinement and you're one of those badass patriots, badass patriot, that's right, you're gonna pry my gun from my cold dead fingers, right? I've been watching my kids make TikTok videos for 3 weeks. I'm pissed. I'm going crazy. You try and come to my house, take my guns, I'll shoot you in the face. It's like, there's some guys typing that on the internet, right? It's cool, no problem. But if you are such a badass, then when you are leaving your house and you don't have to just do errands, right? You're going out for exercise, right? And the hour a day is kind of a joke, a pun on the fact that we're all in solitary confinement, and real prisoners in solitary confinement typically get the same kind of 1 hour a day, but you could be maybe more than an hour a day, a couple hours a day, or whatever you have. Then you can go door to door and drop something like this off in all of your neighbors' mailboxes, right? Just drop them off, right? If somebody's like, what are you doing? It's like, listen, is mail illegal? Are we supposed to be scared of it? No? Okay, cool. Right? We're supposed to be scared of touching anything in the world? Okay, cool. Right? Am I doing something wrong? Cool. Am I violating something? No. Am I bothering people? No. Am I messing with anybody's property? No. Right? So you can drop these off in neighbors' mailboxes. You can leave them in business mailboxes if there's a reason to, if you think they might be open or openish. You can leave these on windshields. Lots of people have done it before, and that is Coronavirus Fight Club, right? So I'm going to get into a couple of things when it comes to information, right? Um, and before I do that, I'll show you sort of the new version of the flyer. Oh no, you know what? I'll do it this way. This is easier. Okay. So right now, there's basically 4 Canadian news sources that are consistent news sources, fairly consistent daily, right? Some of them are like news. Some of them are a bit more, take more time, make a longer video, or printing essays. But there's only 4 Canadian news sources that I trust right now. And even they are overtaxed, right? They're taxed. There's not the huge competitive independent media scene that there is in the U.S., right? Country 10 times as big as Canada, right? At least 10 times as much independent media, but actually way more than that because of their history of free speech, their involvement in international politics, their nationalism and patriotism, and we're American, this is what we do, blah, blah, blah. Their promotion of that, their history as being one of the countries that defined the modern age in terms of modern democracies and the idea of guaranteed rights and so on. So they have a reason to be more able to defend themselves. And so all that independent media competition and them following each other and them seeing what each other's doing and them, citing references, articles from each other or looking into what each other's doing and looking into it more and then coming up with their own article or video or whatever, all of that incredible cauldron is producing some really incredible stuff, really incredible thinking, really incredible analysis. Some people think, smart people I respect, worst thing ever, everyone stay inside for a month or we're all dead. Other people think totally overblown. A couple of 80-year-old sick people are dying and from a flu, and we're supposed to freak out, right? In that mix, there's really good stuff. Or we have to keep things constitutional when it comes to any response to anything. Or if we don't have a constitution, we don't have rights, we don't have a great place to live, then everything will suck anyway, right? So there's all that dialogue going on in the U.S. and in Canada, it's a lot more muted and a lot more boring, right? When it comes to the mainstream media and the independent media. But there's still some good people and good sources. It's just naturally the U.S. is better at it, and naturally we can learn from them. Because nationalists like Trump are saying, we can't destroy the economy, possibly for his reelection, obviously, but also it seems to be he's done a lot of stuff that's benefited people, right? He's done a lot of stuff that benefited people compared to other leaders before him. Like when it compares to who's the president, what are their powers? What can they do for where they live? Or prime minister, who's the leader of your country? All right, you get the job. Great, you got the job, you got the power, you got the mandate. What are you doing with it? Right? When it comes to that, Trump is arguably the best or second best in history, right? Surrounded by swamp creatures, making deals with some shady people in power, right? Like it's not all perfect, right? It's not all like, oh, it's everything. He's not Jesus. He's just a really savvy deal maker, making deals with some good people and some bad people and trying to finesse America to a better place, from what I can tell, right? And he deserves to be praised for good things and criticized for bad things, because that pushback will set him straight again, just like anywhere else in the world. But the American response to this is like, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this as fast as we can. We're going to save our economy. We're not going to save 100,000 people from the flu and kill 10 million people with depression, right? Like we got to, that's a real conversation there. Whereas in Canada, it's more everyday, shortages, hospitals, blah, blah, blah. We need to take more stringent measures. People are doing it voluntarily, but if they don't and they put people at risk, we're going to have to use, martial law style tactics to crack down, right? It's like, what about supply chain management? What about the open borders? What about the open border at Roxham Road, right? Where immigrants keep coming up from the U.S., illegal immigrants keep coming from the U.S. And it's like Canada doesn't even close that because of the globalist UN Global Compact for Migration that Canada was one of the first signatories to and is one of the bigger promoters of, which means you can't, right? That's the problem with globalism, is you give your country's power over to these global institutions or international trade deals and so on, World Trade Organization deals. That's the problem with globalism, right? Um, because you can't, right? It's like, well, hey, we elected you to do something. I know, but the last guy said that we don't have the power to do that anymore. We can't control our borders anymore. We gave control of our borders over to the United Nations. And they say we have to open them up and let everybody in and don't say anything because otherwise you're racist. It's like, no, it's not racist to keep your borders closed. Every country should do it. Nigeria, Japan, Portugal, South Africa, Costa Rica, Spain, everybody. It's not personal. It's not racist. It's practical. Just like your house. You're not racist because you don't let anybody in your house, right? But that's how they get us to think. And then once they use the R word, the racist word, everyone shut up, don't say anything. Then you can call each other that in case anybody brings it up, and then screwed, right? So that's why. And so it's important for Canadians to benefit from the American independent media, right? See a healthier, more robust discussion of the same situation that we are facing today, right? We're both facing the exact same crisis at the exact same time, and Canadians can compare the American government's response, which is far from perfect, but it's better than the Canadian government's response, to the Canadian government's response, right? Compare the two responses. And in the US, it's much more state by state, as Trump's letting the states do things, and some of them are like going crazy, others are being cool, and later on you can compare and say, hey, see, the crazy ones, not a good idea. Shouldn't do that, shouldn't have those type of people in power. The not so crazy responses, hey, we should do more of that. See, vote for those type of people, because if you get the crazy ones, it sucks even when nothing bad's happening, and it sucks way worse when something really bad's happening, right? If you have only emergency stores are open, only emergency places of business are open, and some liberals, for example, close the gun stores, right? Where you say, no, guns are not an essential service in a crisis, in a possible looming depression, with liberal governments letting out hundreds of criminals or thousands of criminals because they're worried those criminals might get sick in jail. So you've got the purge on the street with homeless people that are used to getting $10 a day or $5 a day panhandling to live, now starving, looking to rob anybody nearby and get whatever's in their pocket so they don't die. Guns are not an essential service. Some people feel no, other people feel yes. If you're in Canada and you're just a general guns, no guns, la 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 la, guns scare me, unless you're in a movie. I like them in movies. I think they're cool, or video games. But otherwise, la 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 la, guns scare me, la 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 la. If you're one of those people and you never get a chance to see a nuanced debate about it, discussion, then you're screwed. We're screwed. You'll push for that, right? You won't have a nuanced idea of different opinions, right? And you can have both sides of the issue, but you need to hear both sides to think for yourself, make up your mind, and be a positive, informed, and empowered influence on others where you live, online and offline, when it comes to sharing how you feel about things, right? So the Canadian government's response is a lot worse than the American government's response, because I've seen both. I haven't had a chance to see everything, but I've seen the sort of banal platitudes. The Canadian governments just repeat things. The journalists, Canadian journalists, bought and paid for it by and large, while the independent media is often not allowed to talk to them. People like Rebel News not allowed to talk to not allowed to question our leaders in many cases, right? They say, oh, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy, you're racist, you're this, you're that, so you're not allowed to. Okay, so you call the real critics with millions of fans around the world racist, crazy, conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. So we're not going to talk to you at all. And all the people that kiss your ass, you let in to barely ask any questions and barely hold your feet to the fire on behalf of the people they're supposed to serve, the media's audience, right? So, so that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. And yet, if Canadians learn about American independent media and get used to sort of going, okay, I don't give a shit about this stuff, but We all have to understand it. We all have to learn about it. It's screwing everybody up. We should at least know something about what's going on right now. Everybody is being made to be interested in this. Then pass it on. Let them think for themselves. Let them this. Maybe they'll tweet something. Maybe they'll whatever. Right? This is time to strike while the iron's hot. So I'm going to get back to 4 Canadian news sources who I really trust. Right? No, I don't agree with everything. I'm my own man. I've got individual positive and negative things to say about all of them, just like anybody in the world could have positive and negative things to say about moi, which is French, Canada, bilingual country, or in English, en anglais, me, right? So it's all the same. So nobody get your manties or panties in a bunch. Now, these 4 Canadian news sources I trust and recommend, right? One is Rebel News, rebelnews.com. Ezra Levant's great organization. They're probably the biggest and best news organization in Canada, right? They operate nationally and internationally. They are supported by their viewers, and they do a great job. And yet, many people just hear that in Rebel News, go, "Oh, Rebel News, racist, la 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 la," right? And fine, but if you pass something like this on and like it, might look at it like, well, I think this is bullshit, but I'm really worried about what's going on right now. I think this is bullshit, but I'm really worried about what's going on right now. I think this is bullshit, but I'm really worried about fuck it. Take a look, right? So they might take a look at it. So Rebel News is one I trust. And for those of you who don't know Rebel News, check them out. They're big. They do mostly videos, not that much writing, not that much to read, but mostly videos kind of daily about what's going on, often in Canada, often in America, and sometimes around the world, right? So they do a good job with that. They'll go to Hong Kong, they'll go to England, they'll go to all sorts of places. So they'll go to Israel, they'll go to Iraq and stuff. So they do a great job. So shout outs to Rebel News, doing a great job. If Rebel News fans, Canadian Rebel News fans, there's got to be at least 1 million. If they, as part of Coronavirus Fight Club, which is my word for it, but as part of thinking to yourself and seeing if this shit's a good idea, if they can get that out to the other, 30 million or so, then we could really do something. Because then we could mitigate the response to this, as opposed to those people who you don't reach out to, just kind of killing time, screwing around, not taking it seriously, not having anybody take them seriously when it comes to reaching out to them and when it comes to informing them, like the mass media or people around them, and just kind of being ignorant until the arrogant government cracks down on them again. And as the old joke goes, the beatings will continue until morale improves, right? So, it's important to reach out to them. So Rebel News is good. Another one I recommend is the work of Spencer Fernando at spencerfernando.ca. spencerfernando.ca. Now, he has made himself a great little website, and I think probably a great little living, by doing a great job of analyzing Canadian news, politics, money, and culture, and writing very short articles, like literally, like 300 words, 500 words, 200 words, right? Little short articles with links and so on, with his thoughts from a more conservative perspective as an Albertan on what's going on, right? But he doesn't lie, right? He doesn't necessarily say everything like this sort of deep dive, red pill, conspiracy theory, rabbit hole stuff. But in terms of what's going on, what do most people know, what are we all supposed to be, hearing and giving a crap about, right? Who's in charge? He analyzes all of that really well, right? That's where I heard the Bill Morneau, finance minister, wants to give himself special emergency powers to tax and spend and draft policies as much as he wants until December 21st with or December 2021 with no parliamentary approval. I saw that on spencerfernando.ca, and I signed up to the spencerfernando.ca mailing list at my manforwars@gmail.com account, so I get these emails, right? And sometimes I can just read the emails. I can just read the, you don't see the whole article, but just you get the gist of it from the first part of the email, because it's typically just a few hundred words, right? So for some stuff, I'll just look at the email list and click, click, click. Okay, crazy, this, that, whatever. Other things are, you go click on the website. So spencerfernando.ca, I recommend. Another great website by veteran journalist Dan Dix is pressfortruth.ca. Pressfortruth.ca. Now he's a little more red-pilled, a little more rabbit-holed, a little more not just government's bad, why are they doing this? It's like, no, here's why they're doing this. They're selling out to globalists, eugenicists that want to, manipulate them to screw us, right? So he'll go that next level. Whereas Rebel News typically doesn't go there. SpencerFernando.ca typically doesn't go there, but Press for Truth will go there. It's like, why is the government doing this? They're so stupid. No, they're not stupid. They're selling out to evil people. And this isn't just incompetence or ideology. There's real impact. It's not like, why, this is how I feel, so this is what I'm going to do. These are my emotions. I believe that all people are equal, so we should open our borders. That's not why. It's because you signed the UN Global Compact for Migration. That's why. Because you sold out to letting the UN control our borders. That's why, right? Like many countries around the world have. U.S. didn't, Trump didn't, and they said, no way. We're not signing the Global Compact for Migration, international agreement. We're not signing the Paris Climate Change Accords, which, sends billions of dollars from countries around the world to the United Nations global government through carbon taxes. We're getting out of other international trade deals, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because then all of our trade is managed by this body that's not in our country, and we sign this, and all of a sudden that body controls how we trade and who we trade with, and if there's any disputes, that body regulates them, or the World Trade Organization regulates them. It's like, no, we want to control our own policy when it comes to that. So that's why it's important to kind of go deeper beyond what Rebel News does, beyond what SpencerFernando.ca does, and go like, why? It's not just incompetence, it's not just stupidity. It's like the government says. I had a buddy that works for the Ontario government, and he once told me, I know you think there's corruption out there, but when it comes to the government, I got to tell you, when it comes to corruption or incompetence, you always got to bet on incompetence. And I was like, man, I think some really corrupt people taught you to think that way. Because if the government can say, yes, we have a new $6 billion hydroelectric plant, but we couldn't get it done. Something happened. We changed it, so we had to pay $2 billion to get out of that deal. We're so stupid. Ugh. We were going to pay $6 billion for a hydroelectric plant, but then we didn't want it because we have other sources of energy and whatever, and things got caught up in bureaucratic this or that, or the government changed. So now we don't want to pay $6 billion for it. We want to pay $2 billion to get out of the agreement to pay you $6 billion because you were expecting $6 billion from us, so no problem. We're not going to give it to you. Here's $2 billion. Sorry for breaking the contract. Oh, we're so stupid. The government's so incompetent. No, that's corruption. Somebody got that $2 billion, right? Now, the company might have got that $2 billion, and they might have kicked the politicians back to a couple of $1 million. It's like, here, we'll give you one thousandth of this, to one thousandth of what we made off this canceled deal to give it to us, right? So we did nothing. We got $2 billion because you're expecting to build one and get $6 billion, right? So that's not, or the government, well, the government wastes so much money. No, they don't waste it. Somebody takes it, right? But that's what they do. They try and get us to think that way. So so pressfortruth.ca by Dan Dix is great. Lots of stuff on his website. He does videos pretty much every day. I recommend you support him. He's out in British Columbia right now. He's done great stuff on government corruption, on the quote-unquote deep state or globalism above the deep state. The deep state sort of their people that sort of work for them, internationalists or globalists in countries to subvert those countries, right? And he does stuff with the trans kids issue, following that closely, free speech. He does a lot of great stuff. So check out pressfortruth.ca, another one I recommend. And finally, and there's a few more out there. There's Canada Free Press, there's Euro Canadian, there's a few others. But these are the sort of key ones that I see. And by the way, this is not me being authoritative. This is me encouraging more people to sort of think like this if they think it makes sense, and to act on some of these things in ways that I suggest, plus think of your own, if you think they make sense, right? So final one I'll recommend for now is henrymacko.com. It sounds like Macau, but I've talked to him personally, interviewed him before a couple of times, and he prefers Mako. So Henry Mako, but it's henrymakow.com, and he also goes deeper into the red pill, conspira, whatever, right? He's also a Jewish man, and he calls out Zionism and kind of the Jewish mafia. And it's nothing against ordinary Jews, right? It's like, how dare you say that? There's rich, evil Jewish people. It's like, what about the Italian mafia, right? Can you say, the Italian mafia, no good, right? Running the construction racket, running the garbage racket, trying to buy off judges and cops and politicians where you live, no good. Don't say that. It's racist against Italians. So we have to let the mafia operate? We can't say anything because they're Italian? And if you say they're bad, you're anti-Italian? You're not anti-Semitic, you're anti-italic, right? Like italics, when you take a letter and you like that, you're anti-italic. All right, being anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-italic. I'm not anti-Chinic. I'm not anti-Indianic. I'm not anti-Blackic, right? I'm not, if you're criminals, you're criminals, right? And there are definitely some criminals, and as a Jewish guy himself, Henry Mako can call out a lot of the Jewish mafia criminals who use groups that fight anti-Semitism to shut down their critics, right? So you got George Soros, legendary financier, influencing countries and governments around the world negatively, destroying currencies by shorting markets, and funding a lot of activism that destabilizes countries, right? And he's a Jewish guy, and you can't say he's bad because he's Jewish. It's like, but wait a second. Not only does he do all that evil stuff today, but when he was a teenager, and he's not entirely at fault because he was like 14, 15 years old, so I'm not going to put it all on him like some people do because he was fairly young at the time. But in speaking on being a teenager later, he says in an old 60 Minutes interview, which people today want to hide, the powers that be evil want to hide, he says, during the Nazi occupation of my country as a Jew, I worked with the Nazis to locate hidden Jews, to get them out of where they were hiding, and to send them to concentration camps. And it was among the best times of my life as a young man, being responsible, going out there saying, don't worry, I'm a Jew too. And it's like, okay, I'm a Jew hiding in the basement. Gotcha, bitch! And then the Nazis outside would come, take her, throw her in a concentration camp, right? George Soros, as a Jew, did that, right? So he's not even good at it. And so I say all that just to say when it comes to henrymakow.com that don't just look at it like, look at it like, no. This is like criticizing any mafia, right? Can you only do that in Israel because most people there are Jewish, right? Like, it's stupid, right? If you can find bad things they're doing, but, the Jewish deli around the corner that sells you a bagel, tasty damn bagel, they've been making them for a couple of thousand years, right? No problem, right? So there's a difference. Also at henrymakow.com, he attacks feminism. He got kicked out of his university job for doing that, for questioning it, right? Not because he hates women, because he thinks this is a bad feminism, at least much of the feminism that's out there, is not good for women, and it's not good for men or children either, right? It's like, no, I like people, right? I don't want to see people feel bad. I want to make sure we can question this idea, this ideology, these theories, because I think they make people feel and do worse. And for doing that, he got kicked out of his job at Western University as a professor. And he's written books on it, and he's done great stuff, and people around the world like him. He says, men want power and women want love, right? And it's true. Men want power and women want love, right? And if men get power over themselves, power over their domain, power over their girl, then women will get love. They'll love their big, strong, badass dude. Women want more power over more power. They don't want more power over less power. As a saying that an old roommate freaked out about, he wrote up and wrote it down or whatever. He's like, holy shit, we were just chilling. I was on my couch, he was on his couch, watching TV, talking shit. And as we were talking about this man-woman stuff, I said, women would rather be with an animal they can tame than a tame animal. And my buddy bolted up from his couch, grabbed a pen, just quickly wrote that women would rather be with an animal they can tame than a tame animal. That's great. Oh, fantastic. 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 Right? And he had a girl, and it helped him out a bit, I think. Helped her out too. But and lots of people kind of feel this stuff. Men want to feel useful, women want to feel special. A lot of these ideas that are my quotes, BK from manforwars.com, are in part inspired by and developed with the help of henrymakow.com. So check it out. You can click in the archive section for links based on subject. And if you want sort of globalism or nationalism or this or that or health or whatever, he's got his articles or essays or guest things or things he posts from elsewhere organized. And he's also got a feminism section there, right, where he can break down the problems with feminism, why it was put out there, right? Originally the Rockefellers funded it briefly, because women were at home, they weren't working, they weren't paying taxes, they weren't working for rich guy companies, they weren't paying taxes to the government the rich guys controlled, and they got the kids out of the home where they were homeschooled, got them into the government indoctrination camps, and they kind of could brainwash people to soften them up to accept this, for example, the corona crisis, right? Plus screws up relationships between men and women. Men want to feel useful, women want to feel special, and instead, women are supposed to say men suck, and you can keep saying men suck, men suck, men suck till your toilet's clogged. And then when your toilet's clogged, oh, thank you so much for coming. Oh, we were so worried. Oh my God. Oh, how long is it going to take? It's like, till your toilet's clogged. Till you want to live somewhere. Do you want to live in a little grass hut? As Camille Paglia, the feminist, lesbian feminist author, Camille Paglia, an intellectual who's said a lot of great stuff about this too. She's a lesbian. She's into gender fluidity as a concept that is interesting within a normal society. So she's not like, if we all do this, we're screwed, right? But if most normal people are acting nice, ladies and gents, teaching kids to be cool, these other people should have the freedom to express themselves. Lesbians, gays, and so on. But she knows if everybody went that way, we wouldn't get anything done. And she says if women were in charge, we'd all be living in grass huts. You wouldn't have women out on skyscrapers, 100 stories up, out on a beam, trying to hammer a little metal screw into a little hole or whatever, a piece of wood. That wouldn't happen, right? That's why men are attacked, right? And that's why women are taught to attack men, and men can't fight with chicks, right? I mean, you can, obviously. I fought with girlfriends, whatever, it happens. But it sucks. Everyone feels worse, right? If you win, you're a dick. If you lose, you're a pussy. Now, that being said, women like dick more than pussy. So, don't lose unless you really intellectually lose. But if it's just a question of being messed up, freaking out, whatever, it's better to be a dick than a pussy, right? So anyway, so henrymakow.com is what I recommend as the fourth and final Canadian website that I suggest. And he's going to have stuff on this. I've seen some of his stuff on this. And again, there's a variety of things. Some of his stuff on his website is like, this is the craziest thing ever. Other stuff is total psyop, total hoax. Can't trust the numbers from anywhere. They take 80-year-old people who are already sick. They either kill them or those people drop dead anyway. And then they test them and they say, okay, so it's not the actual virus. We isolate it, but we have a test for corona. If these other particles are there, it's probably corona, right? Or we don't know if the corona killed them or if something else killed them. Or the corona might be one of millions of viruses, because there's many types of coronaviruses as well. That's why it's called coronavirus. This is the SARS-CoV-2 or whatever it is. So when they say coronavirus, we all have coronaviruses. They're in everybody. As Dr. Shiva Ayadurai says at shiva4senate.com, he's running for Senate, I think, in Massachusetts. He's a brilliant brown guy, Shiva Ayadurai. He invented email, admitted it's in the Smithsonian Museum in the U.S. They said, yep, that's the guy. That's the brown guy, the American brown guy who invented email. He runs technology companies. He's a doctor, scientist, genius, right? As he says, your body has hundreds of millions of viruses, like swimming all over, whatever, right? So my point in saying all that is that there's definitely a psychological operations component to this. And men out there, as part of Coronavirus Fight Club, can be a counter-psychological operation, a counter-psyop, and dare I say it, a counter-psy-optimist, to make sure people where you live aren't all messed up. And for guys out there, stop feeling sorry for yourselves. Feel sorry for the girls. Then you'll both feel better, right? I have a song, Killing Somebody for a Girl, at my music section of my manforwars.com website, where I say, one of the lyrics is, I'm sorry for you, not sorry for me, 'cause it makes you happy, and it makes me scrappy. I'm sorry for you, not sorry for me, 'cause it makes you happy, and it makes me scrappy. As part of that, don't you wanna feel like killing somebody for a girl? Go ahead, rock your world, right? So guys out there, you guys stop feeling sorry for yourselves, embarrassing yourselves, not respecting each other when you're a mess near each other, making everyone else be a mess near you, because what else can they do? You got to stop that. You got to start feeling sorry for the girls instead, and then they'll calm down, and they'll feel better, and you'll calm down, and you'll feel better, and then you'll do better. All right? And I've tested this with millions of people, video, blah blah blah. They can't do anything else but sort of sketch away and either bother you or be happy that they were ignored instead of feeling crap, making everyone uncomfortable all the time. But they all react to this stuff. Used to be, before things got worse, when it was more polite Canadians, you'd get more acknowledgement of different things. People would look at you in the eye like, makes sense, yada yada, blah blah. People would talk to you about stuff or whatever. But now, just the version of the same type of communication is, yes, that'd be great, but I don't know, I'm all messed up. We're not doing that anymore. You're right, but what do I do? Right? So that's what's going on. Right? To formerly world famous, nice, polite Canadians. That's how they're acting now. That's why this is so important. And as I said, people are being nicer to each other, and masculine and feminine is key to that, as I said earlier in this video. Okay, so that's all on the Canadian media. Now I'm going to show you this website, and then I'll go over some American media sources that I trust and make this a comprehensive video for Canadians. Okay, so this is my 8 per page flyer, right? Oops, damn it. I'm going to put this down. There we go. All right, and this is in PowerPoint. You can adapt this. You can whatever, right? But here it is. This is at least it on my phone. I haven't printed them out yet, but you can print them out at the link below. This here, if it's stupid, laugh, smart, enjoy coronavirus questions, help people think for themselves. More informed and empowered adults will get us better politicians and results. Manforwars.com 100% HD video proof shows people worldwide want polite, patriotic men offline to help adults act like nice ladies and gents who teach kids to be. The coronavirus, government responses, and threats to our economies and futures are scaring everyone. To help, here are websites to consider. Adults taking this seriously and helping their neighbors share and discuss different ideas will make sure we're okay. Thanks, and pass it on. And there are some websites below that, and then there's another version of this flyer, and sort of the 8 to a page model is, looks something like, there you go. So you can see all of them there. My phone, it's a little weird, but you can see it on your computer as well. My point is that's at least, that's version 1. You can make more versions. That's just a sample. Like, these are not, this is not like, yes, you have everything right. It's like, no, I need more resources, need more help, need more whatever. Otherwise, I can just help you. Help yourself and help other people, right? And you can help me, help you more. You can like, comment, subscribe, share, get in touch with questions, to work together, financial support, whatever. Good to go. But now I'll get to the U.S. websites that I think are really important. I had to frame all that, at least I think I did, or I hope it's helpful, just to give you an idea of how important it is for Canadians to understand that I'm not getting my analysis of this situation purely from Canadian mainstream news sources or purely from Canadian independent news sources. I'm getting a lot of this from the robust, healthy American independent media culture, and that's really important. So I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to share, I shared 4 Canadian sites. I'll share 8 American sites. There's many more. And you could be like, bro, what about this? What about that? I'm like, fine. Tell me if you want. Happy to hear. Tell other people too. Great, no problem. Coronavirus Fight Club. Get out there. Don't just talk about how messed up things are or messed up you are on the internet with other people who feel the same way. Don't just re-inform, re-empower, which is good, and re-entertain other patriots online, right? Get to other people who normally wouldn't care about this, but now really do, and will more than likely check out what's happening just out of curiosity's sake, and just because you're taking yourself and them seriously. So the American website, one of my favorites is Breitbart.com, Breitbart.com, Breitbart.com. They're kind of a mainstream, not mainstream, they're independent, but they're kind of like Rebel News, except they do mostly written articles. They're all written articles, very few videos, a few, but mostly written articles, right? They've got tons and tons of articles there. So if you go to Breitbart.com, like I do, you can scan all these articles. There'll be a bunch of junk there you don't like, right? But they do a great job dealing with politics and culture, right? As the late, great Andrew Breitbart, the founder of Breitbart.com, says, politics is downstream from culture. So they change the culture, and then we get used to the change in culture. Then they bring in political and legal changes to change society, right? So they say, well, gay this, gay that, gay marriage, okay, fine. Most of them don't want to, but okay, who cares? Blah, blah, blah. It's not the same as straight marriage. It's supposed to be, faithful. Now you can do whatever you want, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, whatever, go ahead. And then, well, kids got to learn about it too. Otherwise, we'll feel bad. It's like, what's your problem, grown up? Why do kids have to learn about your lifestyle? Kids don't have to learn straight sex. I don't feel bad. Kids don't know how I want to have sex. No, you have to put up with. And then trans this, that. Oh yeah, okay, fine. Then they passed laws. That's it. Big men wearing nothing but a pink scrunchie and their big beard can go into little girls' change room. I'm a trans guy. Dude, you're not even trying. I'm a trans woman. You better respect me. I better be in your get your little girl's change room. Oh yeah, the law says I can, right? It's like, what the hell, man? Like, you're not even taking it seriously. But then again, most polite Canadians and a lot of people worldwide where it's happening aren't taking being nice ladies and gents seriously. So, how can you expect LGBT people to, right? If most people straight are great at it, LGBT people can be too, right? But Breitbart.com does a great job of analyzing both politics and culture. So there'll be some political stuff, a lot of American stuff, some Canadian, some international, right? But it's a different way at looking at government, what government does, what government should do, what government's principles should be, right? And so on, hotly debated. Also culture, and they've got fun stuff too. They've got fun human interest stories. They've got sports stories about the NBA, NFL, whatever, the NFL ratings, whatever. They've got a baby reveal party that was canceled by the coronavirus, and so the couple, this priest and his wife, had been trying to have a kid for a long time. Finally, able to conceive. Finally, whatever, and they're going to have a big baby reveal party where you burst open the blue or pink balloons or whatever, if it's a boy or a girl or whatever, and it was all shut down by the corona crisis, right? So that sucks, right? But they had it at home. They did it in their kitchen. A bunch of pink balloons popped up, or smoke, or streamers, or whatever. It's going to be a girl. They're so happy. They've been trying for so long. So still, sad they couldn't have a big party, but happy that they could that they could that she's pregnant, and they could have a baby reveal party at home, and that things seem to be going well, aside from the whole world acting crazy right now, excuse me. And yet, what their neighbors did was their neighbors covered their cars in pink balloons and streamers, and their neighbors drove by their house in what the couple called, it looks like a parade, and they drove by this nice priest and his wife's house, and they're honking, beep, 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 congratulations, beep, 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 so glad you're having a baby, beep, 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 sorry we couldn't make the gender reveal party, beep, 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 beep. And it's a fun story to read, right? And when you're looking at politics heavy, it's that fun stuff like that mixed in on Breitbart.com can help, right? Or a little cute TNA from some Hollywood celebrities, showing too much online. Like, all that stuff helps, as opposed to, there's corrupt people in charge and they want to kill us all, right? And we got to focus on that. It's true. But if you just focus on that, you can kind of get depressed. So Breitbart.com does an excellent editorial job of talking about politics and pop culture from a rebel news style perspective. They don't go deep into why this is going on. They will some, right? They will talk about we shouldn't do the UN Global Compact for migration. We should not trust the UN very much, but they don't go really deep into who's behind what. They kind of are. Rebel News and Breitbart.com both serve functions, and the reason they appeal to so many people is they're just below the mass media. Not just below, but they criticize and analyze the mass media and what most people are being told and how most people are being told to think about things and the way most people are talking about things. So if you're like, well, the mass media is saying this is what we should all think and how we should all feel, and then you go to Breitbart or Rebel News, then you're just the smarter one of your friends talking about the same thing. You're not talking about something crazy, typically, right? So Breitbart's great for that. You know, Another website I'll shout out that's kind of related-ish is The Gateway Pundit, and these aren't in exact order, but basically these are 8 I recommend. The Gateway Pundit, right? They've got a bunch of short articles. They're similar to Breitbart News. They may go a little further in some cases, but they're basically also a good website like that. Another website I recommend is zerohedge.com. Zerohedge.com, right? It's got a little picture of it's written by the pseudonym Tyler Durden, like the character from the movie Fight Club. And one of the things on a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everybody is 0. Basically means we're all going to die, right? Which means kind of live free now because we're all going to die one day, right? And that's just kind of philosophically, generally speaking, how the site approaches information. Like, why wouldn't I say this, right? But zerohedge.com focuses a lot on finances in the financial market while also dealing with politics, which influences and affects it. Less so with culture, but it's really about money and politics and international relations and diplomacy. Like that's part of kind of what their wheelhouse is, right? So they'll talk about the markets. They'll talk about a variety of things. But politics and money are typically what zerohedge.com focuses on. So I recommend you check them out because between all of these places, you don't have to read them all the time, all day and all night. But if you check this and you check that and you get a few different things, it's like you can't think for yourself unless you have 2 things to think about, right? If I have, if I have this phone and this pencil, then I can think, if I was stranded on a desert island, would I rather have this phone or this pencil? I wonder what might be more useful. Let me think for myself. But if you only have one thing to think about, then you can't. So that's why it's important for people to see a couple of different points of view, right? So thegatewaypundit.com, the Gateway Pundit. I spelled it wrong on my flyer, but I'll change that in the next version, and people can always search it. Thegatewaypundit.com, zerohedge.com, breitbart.com, and these are all American sites, American-based. They talk about international stuff, including Canadian stuff, and they can give Canadians more balls and get them to expect more from their government instead of accepting less and less from their government. Well, we know things are bad and times are tough, but we don't have resources, and if you complain, you're just making it harder for other Canadians, right? They have it tougher than you do, so even though you're treated like shit and you feel like shit, there's somebody who's treated even worse and feels even worse, so don't feel that bad. It's like, whoa, 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 that's not your job to see how bad we feel and go there, pat us on the head, right? Your job is to help us feel and do better by facilitating a system where we can. Free enterprise, get to make your money, start your business, low regulations, cut taxes, policing, safety, make sure people are safe, secure, and that's about it, right? Education's debatable. But anyway, so that's why it's important. Another website I recommend, the venerable Infowars.com, has a sister website called Newswars.com. Newswars.com basically mirrors Infowars.com. Now, Alex Jones has been yelling at the man for 25 years since he was, in his late teens on public access television in Austin, Texas. and he's matured a lot in some ways. He's also not the artist he used to be, right? He used to be an artist. He used to make incredible documentaries that to this very day are still incredible. 9/11: The Road to Tyranny, one of my favorites. Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, describes exactly what's happening right now. You know, he's been screaming on the streets with a megaphone or on a show, they're going to use a bioweapon to launch martial law. It's like, oh, you're crazy. You're a little much. Well, now we're here. So, yeah, use a bioweapon, launch martial law. Here, we're here now, right? And so traffic to Jones' site is exploding, as his credibility has exploded. But beyond that, newswars.com, infowars.com, newswars.com is less censored. There's less of a stigma against it where the media says don't go to Infowars or you're a weirdo. No one will ever talk to you again and you'll have to go, cry yourself to sleep in a gutter somewhere. So newswars.com is kind of a simpler layout, simpler black and white. It's, some articles, a lot of video, and links to other stuff, but they do a good job of analyzing this. And this is where News Wars, Infowars, and so on goes one step further than Rebel News and Breitbart News, as I said about Henry Macko and PressForTruth.ca as well. So you can see this. Mainstream media says this. Not so sure about it. Good critics of the mainstream media say this. That makes more sense. And then even below that, there's why is all this shit happening anyway? And that's where newswars.com, infowars.com makes more sense, where they say, no, it's part of a larger plan, right? The British Empire never lost. They just rebranded after World War II, as I mentioned earlier, and they set up the Council of International Relations or the Royal Institute for International Affairs in London, England, which is a think tank of about 2,000 or 3,000 of the British elite, the media, financial, political, and cultural elite join. It's like a big talking shop. There's people at the top of that let everybody else know, what's going on, what are the latest trends, what's cool to think about and talk about, what are cool ways to say things. And by the way, this is where things are going, so this is where you should put your money, and this is where you get your talking points if you're in the media, so you can go out and tell everybody else, right? So that's the Royal Institute for International Affairs in London, England, right? And they do that in England. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with me? They set up a version in every formerly Commonwealth country in the world. The American version is the Council on Foreign Relations. 2,000 or 3,000 of the business and political and cultural and media elite in the U.S. are members of the CFR. And there's some senior people there, obviously, more important, wealthy, powerful, influential people that influence the rest of them, and then they influence the rest of us. And all that is tied back to the Royal Institute for International Affairs in England, which set up these satellites around the world, right? And in Canada, the Canadian Council of Chief Executives. 2,000 or 3,000 of the Canadian media, business, political elite at this think tank talking shop. They'll go musing, well, what do you think will happen? Do you think the Canadian economy will survive? No, frankly, I don't think it'll survive. I think everything will be moved to China. Really, Mr. Minister of Foreign Affairs? Really, Mr. Minister of Trade? Really, top businessman and CEO? Really, top media leader? Interesting. Maybe I'll teach my kids Mandarin. Oh, you should definitely teach your kids Mandarin because in 5-10 years, when the West is destroyed, you're probably going to want to be living in China and doing business in China. Good call. At my kid's private school, he'll learn Mandarin. Then when my 5-year-old is 25, he'll be well versed in Mandarin and English. And when the Chinese take over from America and the West is destroyed and the Chinese communist globalist model is and they're basically the new America to run the world, except more like communist China than sort of democratic America, then that's what we'll do. And America's not perfect, but better than communist China, right? This is where they want to take us. So that's where decisions like that are made. And there's one in Australia, there's one in all the Commonwealth countries, right? So that's why it's important to check out places like newswars.com or to learn that there are people that are actually eugenicists, which means they believe in culling the population, killing people, killing the weak and infirm, right? The way normal people, at least normal, kind of aloof or richer people, say somebody making, 100,000, $500,000, $1 million a year, right? The way they look at homeless people is the way the super rich people look at us, right? So if you see that homeless guy on the street, who's throwing up on himself and laying there and you're like, ugh, God, what a waste of society. What a waste of skin. Ugh. You hold up your nose, and that's the way the super rich think about us, right? So it's good to understand the eugenicists and their plans. And so check out newswars.com, right? Another great favorite website is whatdoesitmean.com. Whatdoesitmean.com, right? And whatdoesitmean.com is a very interesting website, very well sourced, right? They're sort of pro-nationalism, pro-Christianity, pro-life-ish, still scientific, pro-science, right? Pro-Trump, right? They're pro people around the world kind of understanding what's really going on, and yet they're supposedly based out of Russia, right? Except they're supposed to be. It was started by an American, but it's based out of Russia, and they use a bunch of Russian intelligence reports that are not classified. They're maybe this part's classified, but you can read this part, and other sources, and they're very well sourced with stuff from all over the internet, right? Constitutional stuff, congressional hearings, old articles, photos that you've never seen before, probably taken by some Russian spy. And you might be like, and you might be like, oh, the Russians. It's like, well, they don't say much about Putin, so I'll say that. But if you want to learn about what's going on in Canada, in America, and around the world, they're a good resource for it, right? And I don't know exactly who's behind them. I just know they do good work. If I find out there's some real scumbags behind them, whatever. But I know that they source a lot, almost all of their claims. Even if you don't like them, you can find lots of great articles and links to sources of information from whatdoesitmean.com, right? Because they'll say, something like, a lawyer, or a lawyer investigating, or a lawyer who is about to prosecute, some criminal was just killed, and the FBI agent, or whatever, or the law enforcement officer that was assigned to the case to find out how he was killed, and you're like, what the hell? And it's related to some other issue. And they'll have hyperlinks to news stories about this, right? And the hyperlink to the news story and their editorial slant might be, he was probably killed because of whatever, X, Y, and Z, or evil people might get him, whatever, right? But the local news story confirms that he's dead and says, yeah, this guy who was really, career was going great. He had a fiance. He was looking forward to getting married in the next 2 or 3 months. He was coming out with a new book that was going to expose a bunch of stuff. He felt like sitting in his car and shooting himself in the head twice, right? And that's the official news story that they link to from the local, city or state or whatever kind of newspaper, online or whatever. And you're like, holy crap, right? So they would say, we don't think he killed himself. We think he was probably killed. But for proof of whatever, here, look at this, right? And so I recommend whatdoesitmean.com because they do kind of daily articles, usually once a day. I don't read them all, and some of them are screwy. Some of the stuff on all of this stuff I don't like, right? Some of the stuff's a little screwy, right? And they're a bit more space this, a bit more that, whatever. But it seems like their heart is in the right place and their head is mostly in the right place, and that's about as good as anybody can do. Fair enough? So whatdoesitmean.com is a key source. Another website I will recommend is naturalnews.com. Naturalnews.com, right? The great Mike Adams, venerable Mike Adams, he's a veteran researcher and scientist. He runs his own lab to test products to see how much, chemicals are in this, how much lead is really in Coca-Cola or whatever the hell it is, right? He can do all that stuff. He can be like, no, we have the labs. We run a scientific lab that other people use to test stuff. Plus, he's got tons of supplements to sell. And beyond that, beyond just being a store, he's got tons of great articles, lots of great free stuff, right? And, like I said earlier, in terms of what the government's response, stay away from people, wash your hands. Any updates? Nope. It's like, why? Well, one of the reasons is doctors might spend 10 years in medical school, but they'll only spend a day on nutrition. They're going to spend 10 years in medical school, or a week, a day or a week, something like that, between a day and a week on nutrition. And the rest of the time, it's 10 years of medical school. Here's the Bayer drugs. Here's the Merck Frost drugs. Here's the AstraZeneca drugs. Here's the, it's all that, right? So if you go to a doctor, some of them are good. Some of them are smart. Some of them will, there are some good ones. But when it comes to a lot of doctors, they don't know and they can't start talking about it like they're a naturopath, because the rest of the doctors will look at them and say, hey, buddy, we make money off big pharma, right? We write prescriptions. The drug costs $500. We get $100 for writing the prescription. Shut up, right? So you're gonna piss off other doctors, right? If you do it too much. Some doctors will, some doctors won't. And also when it comes to this whole process, right? People are like, oh, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? It's like, listen, we all like experts, no doubt. We all like experts, right? We all like experts. But we also can like experts that question experts, right? People like whistleblowers who can come out and say, no, I worked there. I did that. I'm qualified. I worked in the industry. I spoke at the conferences. I was a keynote speaker. I've taught many other people this discipline. And I'm saying this prevailing wisdom coming from these people, this group, these bodies, is bullshit, right? So I'm an expert questioning experts. And if those people can make sense relative to the other stuff you hear, then that's where you get your information from. You might be like, bro, vaccines, what are you talking about? Bro, don't worry me about vaccines. I know the World Health Organization just said they want to vaccinate everybody in the world against coronavirus, and nobody will be safe if everybody isn't protected. So we've got to roll out at least 5 billion vaccines. Bro. Just don't say anything, man. You're crazy. No. I'm not just saying it because I don't like needles, which I don't, and I don't like sticking things in my bloodstream, right? You might be like, well, so what? It's got a little mercury in it. So does a tuna sandwich. Yeah, that sucks too, but at least you can poop it out. When it's in your bloodstream, it's just swimming around in there, rotting your brain, right? So yeah, they put a little mercury in vaccines to make sure that they don't go bad because it's a bit of a preservative. So what? There's about as much mercury in a vaccine as there is in a tuna sandwich. Yeah, I eat the tuna, it sucks, and then I poop it out, right? With the vaccine, I inject it directly into my bloodstream, and it slowly kills me by screwing everything up, right? Because that's what mercury does. That's why we don't eat it, right? So you got to find experts that question experts. And if you say, bro, what are you doing with the vaccine? You're crazy. You're one of those anti-vaxxers. Well, you can see the movie called Vaxxed, Vaxxed, with Dr. Andrew Wakefield, and you can see they did a Vaxxed bus tour across the country, and they talked to like 5,000 different sets of parents whose kids were harmed by vaccines, right? They're just driving around America. Vaxxed tour is going to be in your neighborhood. Come see the Vaxxed bus. Come hang out with us. We're going to have a little video camera, and we're going to interview you. And I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a few. I've seen enough to go, and I've seen this stuff before too, but I've seen enough to go, all right, these people are not lying. These parents are not lying, right? The doctors can lie, and they never have to deal with you again. The parents are like, nope, my baby was beautiful and perfect, and then we took them in to get the MMR shot, which is mumps, measles, and rubella. 3 different diseases or different kind of dead viruses to build up your antibodies. 3 different viruses plus other shit that's in the vaccine that's not good for you, that stimulates your immune system, because that's how you stimulate your immune system, right? That stimulated my immune system, like that. I smack myself in the forehead, my forehead hurts a little bit, my white blood cells are speeding up to kind of stop the pain and stop any sort of injury. Yeah, anything bad you do to yourself, and there's stuff in vaccines that stimulates your immune system, right? It's poison. And so all these parents going, yep, my baby was perfect, and then they got the triple threat MMR shot, which Dr. Andrew Wakefield, who's the star of Vaxxed, says, and he was a pro. He was a top ranked expert in his field, pro, right? He comes out and says, this is bad. I've given him for years. Our hospital's given him for years. We've seen lots of cases we always thought, oh, see, the baby left here basically the same, so everything's fine. But one out of every couple of dozen or so gets, almost dies and becomes autistic or retarded or whatever for the rest of their life, right? But it's the price you pay for being safe. But then you look into it more and you go, no, 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 this is screwing up the rest of the babies too. They're just handling it better. Only 1 out of 20 babies goes, the other babies are like, okay, just a little dumber, a little slower, a little sicker. Maybe I'll buy some more big pharma drugs later, right? So experts who question experts, right? And so, Dr. Andrew Wakefield, Dr. Russell Blaylock, Dr. Meyer Eisenstein, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and many others. I worked with a guy named Dr. Andrew Molden, the late great Dr. Andrew Molden, Molden. He died sort of mysteriously a few years ago, and I knew him well for a time, not for a long time, but for a time I knew him well, and we were part of sort of we got to get the word out movement, and I'm interested and so on. And he is a guy who specializes in vaccines, right? He specializes. He is a neuropsychiatrist, right? And he was being groomed as a brilliant young guy. He was being groomed to take over and be the head of psychiatry in Canada, basically, right? He's a neuropsychiatrist, a brain psychiatrist. And psychologist has to do with therapy. Psychiatrist is therapy plus the use of drugs. How do drugs affect the body? So that's the difference between psychology and psychiatry, right? And yet Dr. Andrew Molden was being groomed to be the head of psychiatry across Canada. And then he discovered his theory of how vaccines screw up babies. And what his theory is, and he's proved this, it's not just a general theory, it's looking at the science, looking at the data, looking at the stats, right? When you get a vaccine, right, what happens, the reason that some people's faces kind of freeze up after a vaccine, people are stuck like, oh yeah, now I'm autistic or whatever. The reason sometimes there's short circuiting going on is people are having micro strokes. They're having little mini strokes in their body. That's what leads to a lot of cases of paralysis, leads to a lot of cases of autism and so on. So that's how it affects them. And this was not a stupid guy. This was a smart guy, co-signed by his whole industry until he became an expert who questioned experts, right? And so that's what we're looking for. And I'm sharing this so that you, when you're talking to other people out there, because I'm a veteran at this stuff, and so, happy to mix it up, typically, again, man, not needed until your toilet's clogged or some shit hits the fan, right? Then it's like, okay, so now, man, okay, Mr. Man, now we have to do something or we're all fucked. It's like, well, yeah, okay. Who else are you going to talk to, right? But when you're talking to people out there and they're poking you with all these questions, I've already been poked with these, right? Other people have been poked with these. And I'm a quick thinker, as you can tell, because I talk too fast, because I have a lot to say. We're not supposed to say much today. So you got to, if you want to say exactly how you feel, you got to get all of it out or it's not you. Blah, blah, blah. Social media, reducing our attention spans, turning into goldfish, blah, 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 right? So it's tricky, but I'm a quick thinker, and there's many other people out there, right? But my point is I've dealt with this stuff. And so I know, how you can deal with it too. Where they go, oh, you're not one of those guys, are you? It's like, no, listen. Hey, listen, man. I get where you're thinking. I completely empathize. I know where you're coming from. But I'm not just one of those weirdos that doesn't trust anything. That's like, oh no, you're out to get me. Black helicopters everywhere. No. Oh no. Oh, you can't trust that. Oh, you can't trust paper, right? Yeah, paper's made from pulp. You know what pulp is? If you spell pulp backwards, it's plup. You know what? No, it's not that shit. It's that you actually heard experts question experts who made sense, and they made more sense than the experts who most people are told to listen to. And that's why I'm taking this position here. If you don't want to discuss it, you don't want to argue about it, you don't want to whatever, you and your wife are having a baby, you're thinking of getting the baby vaccinated, you don't want to be a weirdo, you don't want to be an anti-vaxxer, you don't want people to look at you bad, no problem. You don't want to argue with me about it. I'm supposed to be your friend. I'm supposed to be happy for you. I've done this with friends when we've done this. I'm like, listen, man, we're at a house party, right? We're at a house party, And I don't want to bust your balls. I don't want to get into a huge debate here about this. I don't want you to be so like, we saved everyone from polio, or maybe you gave people polio with the polio that was in the vaccine, or maybe whatever, or maybe people just died off on its own, right? With stuff, it's hard to tell. With the coronavirus, hard to tell. If we do nothing, would things be different? If we do something, would things be different? All of it's hard to tell, right? When it's sort of this invisible, nothing happened. See, we did the right thing, or nothing happened and we didn't do anything. But, whatever, right? Like with swine flu in 2009, nobody did quarantine, nobody did anything. It just went away. Now in 2020, we got a corona flu, or bat flu, or Chinese flu, or COVID, whatever. We got this COVID operation, and now we're all supposed to shelter in place and not leave our house for 18 months. So what the hell, right? So I'm at a house party, and I'm with Buddy, talking about, hey, congratulations, man, you and the missus gonna have a kid. Oh yeah, it's great, blah, blah, blah. I say, hey, listen, you know how I feel about vaccines? Oh yeah, I know, we're not sure. I'm like, you thinking about it? And I'm like, I'm not sure, I'm thinking, but probably, you know how it is. We don't want the kid to get sick. We don't want the kid to get polio, or mumps, or measles, or rubella, or dysentery, or tuberculosis. In fact, there's probably 5,000 diseases, so we might give our kid 5,000 vaccines to make sure he never gets sick from any of them. And it's like, no, slow down. Calm, just go, whoa. Okay, calm down. Listen, I don't want to get into this with you here because we're at a party, we're around, this and that. We just want to make small talk and crack some jokes. We can talk about anything if we're polite Canadians, polite people who respect each other, like nice ladies and gents, but just for as little or as long as we want. We don't not be polite, gender neutral, sketchy, make it hard to talk, and not be able to talk about anything, right? So we can talk about it for a bit, but that's it. I'm sensitive, right? So what do? Hey man, look, take this, stupid, laugh, throw it out, smart, enjoy, hope it helps. Good luck. Fold it up, put it in his pocket. Cool? Are we cool, man? Are we cool? Are we cool? Do you think I fuck with you or not? No, I didn't fuck with you, did I? Even though I think something different, you might not be comfortable with it. I did not fuck with you, did I? No. So we're cool. Good. Yeah, back to, you want to go get a drink? Let's go get a drink. Let's go talk some shit. Let's talk about The Simpsons. It's awesome. Right? So, you can do that. And so that's why I bring up naturalnews.com as well, because he is an expert who questions experts. And there's many more there and lots of free natural health info. There's so much stuff about the coronavirus. Like I said, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, right? Even my red pills versus blue balls buddies. One of them told me he heard on the Alex Jones show on the Ron Gibson BitChute channel, which I recommend you check out. Ron Gibson, Ron Gibson. Type in Ron Gibson BitChute or Ron Gibson channel, and you'll find commercial-free InfoWars shows updated daily, especially at this time, right? And for men out there, for God's sakes, you should at least be able to get Alex Jones. Understand him, right? Yelling at the man for 25 years, he's like your big brother versus big brother. He'll help you man up. On a typical nice day, like, long day at work. I just want to go get some beers, chill out, talk about basketball, talk about how great the Raptors season was last year, winning a championship, doing pretty well this year, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure, fine, right? But if you ever need to man up, Jones is your big brother versus big brother, right? He's the guy, just like the real big brother. You might fight with him, you might not even like him sometimes, but he will make you more of a man. That is part of his job. And so Alex Jones, instead of the fashionable, politically correct, hey, how's it going? Yeah, no, I can't really say anything, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Shoves me in my mouth, just can't really talk. Can't talk about anything, just act sketchy, just because you can't say anything, so I have to talk like sketchy, and you have to act sketchy back, and can't do much with each other, go run around, shake near strangers, try and force them to put up with it, make it hard to do anything, and during a pandemic, spread the virus. Instead of doing all that, Jones will help you kind of be more straight up about stuff, right? Because he has been successfully yelling at the man, which is a pretentious the man. What a pretentious twat. He's just a man, right? If you're a man, he's a man. Fuck him, right? Cool. Not fuck him. Fucking with you, fuck him back, right? But Jones been yelling about this stuff for 25 years, and he's been successful at it. Successful business, Infowars.com. the InfoWars family, free speech media, whatever, 100 employees, global sales, global fan base, millions of people. Even if he's kicked off YouTube and all the social media platforms over a year ago. Sorry, stray hairs. No allegory, stray hairs. Seriously, I'm seeing him once in a while in the video. And even though he's been kicked off all social media and all sort of mainstream platforms, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything disappeared, gone, right? He's still incredibly successful with his fan base at his websites and band.video and so on, right? But my point is, you should at least be able to hear him and listen to him and understand him. Because if you understand him, if you can do that much, then you'll be a better man for it. If you can't, obviously be a worse man for it. Because as man especially, you can't be scared of what someone says. You can't. Save for a direct threat. You cannot be mad at what someone says, right? You can't. Like if someone's just like, oh, I think the moon's made of green cheese. Don't say that. How dare you? Uncomfortable, quiet, weird. I don't know what to say. Do no, you can't, right? You can't be upset. You can't start crying because of what somebody says, right? If Johnny Cash, the late great legendary country singer Johnny Cash, he's got a song like this. He's like, well, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. You could be like, whoa, Johnny. That seems a little excessive, right? Now, I'm not going to start crying because you shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. I can at least hear it. I'm not saying it's a good idea or a bad idea yet, but I can at least have the conversation. I'm man enough to have the conversation with you, right? And it's more of a male thing to do, right? This is why the putting men and women together and the mixing up the this and the workplaces and so on, and then pushing the gender neutral agenda and pushing men, you shouldn't be a man, you should be more like a woman. And then women, you shouldn't be a woman, you should be more like a man. And then we all turn into compliant corporate clones who can't respect each other like nice ladies and gents and communicate well and teach kids to, and then we're easier to control, right? So, but there is a double standard, a masculine and feminine double standard, right? If you had a bunch of Navy SEALs at a bar, right? The Navy SEALs, soldiers, for shorthand's sake. If you had a bunch of soldiers at a bar, and the soldiers just got back from the Middle East, they're like, God damn, we were killing some people. Oh, man, what'd you think when you stabbed that guy in the eye? Man, I think I was just a little bit off. I wanted to aim for the pupil, but I missed a bit, and I got some bones, so it was tough to shove the knife in there. And these soldiers, 10 soldiers are talking at a bar, just waiting for the waitress to come over. And the waitress come over, hey guys, hey you big strong guys, how's it going? They'll go, hey lady, I just stabbed a man in the eye in Afghanistan. I'm feeling great. Whoa, no. Right? The girl can hear, and girls don't mind if guys can talk. They like guys who can talk, just not to them. They don't mind if that noise is there. They don't mind if comedian Owen Benjamin and his wife Amy are a perfect example of that, where Owen Benjamin's on the stream, the globalist this, the so-and-so that, craziness, oh man, wizard slayer, and his wife is there. He doesn't talk to her like that. He mentions little bits here and there, but he doesn't talk a lot to her like that. But he talks near her like that, and it gets the juices flowing. She's like, pfft, because they want more power over more power. And part of that power is getting you not to talk like that, but not as a permanent state of affairs, as a friendly, temporary one. So, back to the example. 10 soldiers at a bar, right? And, 10 soldiers at a bar, and they're all sitting there, and they're, damn, what is that? Sorry, these stray hairs are annoying me, and I think they might be annoying you, and me dealing with it might be annoying you too. Sorry about that. Anyway, there it is. So, no allegory. Literally, hair issue, because I was wearing a toque, and now this stuff got a little ruffled, more than normal. Now, so the 10 soldiers at the bar, blah, killing Afghanistan, what do you think of mortar frag, blah, blah, oh yeah, do that, man, just remember banging those hookers in Thailand, blah, blah, and then the waitress comes over, hey boys, how's it going, and the guys turn, oh hey honey, we're doing much better now, hee, you boys are so sweet, what can I get you? Oh, well, listen lady, we'll take a couple of pictures, and a couple of pounds of wings, and we'll take a nice smile. You're so silly, hee, smile, shake her ass, walking away, come back a few minutes later with your order, right? That's the double standard. And there's a general double standard, right? When it comes to interacting, right? Guys, guys, cool, straight up. Guys, girls, more space, more whatever, right? And then girl, relax, feminine, vulnerable, validates you being a man, validate her being a woman, empowered, feel better, keep it moving, want to communicate, make it easy, right? That's the ideal archetype. So at this point, where people want to be nicer to each other during this crisis to help each other get through it, that's a key point to remember, right? So back to Jones, you should at least be able to hear him, at least be able to listen to him. And at this point in history, when you really give a shit about what's going on, because it's screwing you now and it could screw you forever, Jones is a good place to go because he knew all this would happen, not because he's a priest talking about the end days and Jesus is going to come and save us if you trust me. Not that. Not because he's, just a theorist, a conspiracy theorist, who's just like, I got this crazy idea how the world works. See, we're not actually here. Like, this is all a simulation, right? I think we're really living in a goat's nostril, and we're in a bit of a droplet of booger, right? And once he sneezes, we're all doomed, because we'll splat again. That's all garbage. He actually uses, lots of guests, lots of experts, lots of documents, lots of whatever. And he puts on a bunch of groups and a bunch of people. Oh, you're doing something really good in the community. Come on my show. Tell millions of people. You're doing something really good. Come on my show. You've got a great website. You've got a great channel. You're doing a great job with memes. You're doing this. Come on my channel, right? So between that and their own work, plus another key thing when it comes to understanding the independent media and InfoWars for the last 25 years. I've been there for all of it, but I've seen a fair bit of it for the last, say, 15 or so, around there, 15, 16, 17, somewhere, 15, on and off, getting more interested in it depending on what else is going on. But I've been aware and I've been cool with it because I know people that are cool with it. Even if they're not into it, at least they're not scared of it and making everyone else uncomfortable around anything except being uncomfortable, right? You should at least be able to handle it. And at this time, you should be able to learn from it. But Jones, you might think, wow, it's all conspiracy stuff. He's talking about lizards and aliens. And no, none of that shit. He doesn't talk about lizards, doesn't talk about aliens, doesn't talk about spaceships, doesn't talk about other dimensions. It used to be 80%, right? 80%. And this is when the mass media was better. The mainstream media was better, less consolidated, less controlled. More different, more money, more readership, more whatever, less internet, more newspapers, more investigative journalists, right? Even today, this still holds true, but a substantial portion of Infowars.com is news, rare mainstream news that's reported but not repeated. That's reported but not repeated. Right? Now, that's really key to understand. You said this on my radio show years ago. And people say stuff because you always need this type of stuff. Just like you need men. It's like, we don't need men. Everything's fine. Oh, shit, huge corona crisis. Well, welcome to Corona Fight Club. But Infowars.com is news that's often reported but not repeated. Like propaganda is repeated everywhere, right? So Jones will, in one breath, Jones will say, the New York Times is a piece of trash. Those lying globalist scumbag sellouts run by Carlos Slim, blah, 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 blah. And then, in the next breath, he'll say, it was in the New York Times. We have the documents. They printed it in the New York Times, right? Because that's basically what it is, right? How do you understand that? He thinks the New York Times are basically a lot of scumbags lying to and abusing and confusing people. But at the same time, he says trust him because he saw it in the New York Times. How does that work, right? Doesn't make any sense, or does it? It's because news that's reported but not repeated is often the source of a lot of independent media's analysis. Now, they might take that, they might investigate it themselves, they might build on it, they might add to it, or they might just reference it, right? But there are good journalists who work in the mainstream media. Not everyone's evil. Certainly at the editorial level, there's probably more control, and then below that, whatever. But not everybody's evil. There's good journalists. The CBC News even came and talked to Toronto Truth Seekers back in the day. We were there for months on the streets of Toronto at Yonge and Dundas, and we were cool. People were cool with us. Everyone getting along, whatever. lots of people engaging, interacting with us during the swine flu pandemic H1N1 scare. And so a good CBC News, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation government broadcaster, contacted Dan Dix from pressfortruth.ca, and he got in touch with us. And then they asked, would you mind if we send a CBC News crew down to film you guys, and to talk to you? We said, no problem, sure, right? And this is also how you work with the mainstream media, because I was one of the leaders of this Toronto Truth Seekers group, and there's a couple of leaders, right? Everyone's sort of a leader in the general sense, but in terms of like the more authoritative, voices, right? And I was saying, look, I know everybody here is into a whole bunch of stuff, right? But right now, the swine flu H1N1 pandemic is the big thing that everybody's concerned about. It's in the news every day. Everybody's worried about it. CBC is coming down specifically to talk to us about the swine flu pandemic, how we're doing, how other Canadians are reacting to what we're doing, how we're interacting with them, and so on. So it's specifically about that. So I said to the group, I said, guys, look, I know that you can say, media sucks, sucks. And you feel like yelling at them, freaking out, taking all your frustrations on them. As soon as they come over, as soon as you see them, you suck. You people are ruining this country. You're scum. Right? It's like, but that's not that doesn't do anybody any good. I mean, you should criticize them, but in terms of just attacking them, right? That doesn't do anybody good. You should analyze and criticize and share what they do well and what they do poorly, but you shouldn't just attack them when there's a chance to work with them, right? You shouldn't give them too much. You shouldn't give them too much rope to hang you with, but you should not give them any rope, because they can, if there are good people on the inside and they want to shine a spotlight on you, not because of the issue that they're taking a stand on, but because you are people where they live, where they operate, where they're supposed to serve the public. You are people who are doing a good job, co-signed by other people where you live. So they're covering that. So we're not covering the vaccine thing. We think vaccines are great and the swine flu is dangerous, and if we have to take a vaccine for it, obviously we should. But there is this group of 15 to 20 polite, patriotic Canadians hanging out at Yonge and Dundas, getting along with each other. Everyone else seems to be getting along with them, and they're sharing some alternative ideas about vaccines, including legal exemption forms, and people seem to be fine with it. So if that goes on for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, then you know what? We should cover that, not the issue, but that. And excuse me, sorry. And all right. Anyway, so I said to the group, I said, guys, listen, just while they're here, for the length of time they're here, just for today, no 9/11 truth, no UN Agenda 21, no globalist this, no Illuminati that. Let's just focus on this, right? Because we can act stupid, we can go crazy, or we can say, but it's the truth. You have to get it out there. It's like they won't use it. They won't use it. If the CBC comes to see us about this issue, because I had a radio show at the time too, right? And I'm a journalist. I'm like, if they come to see us and we agree it's going to be about this topic that's in the news every day, that everybody's interested in, everybody's talking about, if they come to see us and we go, screw you, put up with this, they'll just be like, all right, these guys are crazy and they're assholes, and we're out of here. Just the reporter will leave, the cameraman will leave, and done. So what's the point of that, right? Instead, we could work with them and say, we're going to focus on the issues that you want to focus on. We're going to make sure that we're cool and you can cover us. We're not unpleasant. We're going to make sure that the information we're talking about, that we're sharing at the table, the signs we have on the table, are all related to dealing with the swine flu thing and questioning vaccines and saying, well, you know what, we just think people should be informed. That's all. You can make up your own mind about it. And if you take a vaccine, then you should be protected. Don't force me to take one if you think that shit works. No, we have to have herd immunity. Everyone has... No. You're putting that needle in your arm. You're injecting that liquid into your bloodstream because you think it works. So if you take that, then you enjoy the fact that you can't get sick anymore. If you don't believe that, then don't fucking take it. And when it comes to kids, I'm going to give my kid a vaccine exemption form. And I'm going to make sure I sign it and my kid isn't injected with vaccines in general at the school or an experimental swine flu, bird flu, pig flu, corona flu, whatever flu vaccine, kung flu, whatever. I'm going to do that. And my kid will go to school, right? And if you want to vaccinate your kid, don't complain about my kid not being vaccinated, because if that shit works, even if my kid is sick as a fucking dog, your kid should be fine. And if that shit doesn't work, then don't put it in your fucking blood, right? Anyway, so the bottom line with the CBC thing is that they came over, a skinny Greek chick, attractive, sharp features, Ilona Romiliotis or something. She and a cameraman came over, and they covered us, not just us, but people around us, Canadians. Hundreds of Canadians walking by, interacting with us, or just asking them what do they think of us being there, or whatever. They covered Canadians around us for an hour. And while they were covering Canadians around us for an hour, they were also doing a little bit of filming at the table. They're talking to, hey, Canadian, what do you think of these people? Oh, I'm glad people are trying to do something helpful. People should be able to make their own choices and be informed. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, Canadian, what do you think of these people? Well, we think they're doing a pretty good job. Not my thing, but whatever. Canadian, what do you think of these people? Well, I have my own questions about this, and I think they're doing a good job helping people answer questions they have too. Good. But so after an hour, they had, like most Canadians at Dundas Square in Toronto, were cool with us. So after an hour, they're like, all right. And then they filmed us. They talked to us. Then they interviewed me for 10 minutes and so on. And then we made about 30 seconds of a 3-minute news story on in total, or maybe 20 seconds of a 3-minute news story on the national broadcast, which was broadcast in certain regions, but not everywhere. There was definitely some editorial pushback, right? It's like, these reporters doing a good job, the cameraman doing a good job, the editor that assigned this doing a good job, and then it goes up and they go, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, we get where you're coming from. I'm glad you went out there to cover them, but we only have so much time, and we can't broadcast this everywhere. No. In my 10-minute interview, right, which pressfortruth.ca filmed, there's a link below, which is CBC News Interviews TTS, right below. So you can see the two videos that Dan Dix and his team at pressfortruth.ca shot. They filmed the CBC covering us, and they made a separate video, right? So my whole interview's on there. Them talking to other Canadians is on there. Them, being around us is on there. Us discussing whether or not we should film her interviewing me. The cameraman was like, hey, we're filming this. What are you doing? And she was like, no, it's okay. They're their own little media company, and they should be able to film too. They want their own records. And I was like, yeah, totally. Listen, we want to work with you. You're nice enough to meet us. We're nice enough to meet with you, right? And we'll meet you where we can work together. It may never happen again, which is fine. That happens. But if we're going to do this, let's do it well, right? So we did do it well. And yet, in that entire 10-minute interview I had, where I was being really diplomatic, really chilled out, we were all in a great mood, doing ballsy stuff, and for the girls, eggsy stuff, and being totally co-signed by the hood, right? The only part of my calm, genteel, dressed up, tie, blah, 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 interview they used was, we think Canadians should be informed. That was the whole clip. We think Canadians should be informed, right? But the value of that is far beyond the 20, 30 seconds we got of national exposure or semi-national exposure on CBC News, right? That's valuable, right? Where they say, oh, wow, look at that. There's a group of Canadians in Toronto getting out there on the streets, sharing information, including vaccine exemption forms. But they're, oh, gone. Clip's gone. Fine. And then they had the doctors out there, well, everyone needs to take one. You know how it is. They cost $500 each, and I get $100 every time I shove someone in someone's arm. It's like, well, So I get it, but between that, the validation of our group, the fact that we got it on film and we have video of them covering us and them co-signing us, it's not the friendliest editorial approach that I would have taken when it comes to Dan Dix and pressfortruth.ca. Nothing against him, does phenomenal work. We would just disagree. It's like two brilliant directors talking about how to make a movie. They would both make a new Star Wars. They would just argue like crazy over, what kind of Star Wars to make or what's going to be in it. But they'd probably both make a good Star Wars, right? So he did a great job with his videos. but I would have been a little bit more charitable in my estimation based on my analysis, which made sense then, makes sense now, and hopefully makes sense to you. So I wanted to put that out there because I think it's important for people to understand that online conversations can get flattened, right? It's just this is good, this is bad, less and less typing to more and more people because you're like, I like to type in full sentences, paragraphs. I like to say how I feel about something is this, and this. Those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points about this topic is uniquely defining me. It's how I feel about this as a unique individual in the world at this time and in history, just like every other unique little snowflake out there, right? Not in the negative snowflake connotation of being kind of a weak, triggered person, but in the original each snowflake falling from the sky is individual kind of way, right? But the only way I can do that is if I can fully express myself. And I know brevity is the soul of wit, and you shouldn't talk too much. I get it. But sometimes people don't talk enough, so other people who talk too much have to make up the difference. Everybody catches up, and then we're good. Otherwise, people don't talk enough, and they're confused and quiet, and you're not supposed to say anything or say too much, and they make each other uncomfortable. It sucks, right? So yes, you shouldn't talk too much, but you also shouldn't talk too little. If you talk too much, people get annoyed. If you talk too little, people get paranoid. They don't know you. They don't understand you. They don't trust you. You can't relate to each other. You're not unique individuals developing a unique relationship, right? So online, conversations tend to get flattened out. People typing shorter sentences or not even full words, not paragraphs, not sentences, not words, maybe just fractions of words, right? Broken words, misspelling words, or just emojis, and there's online sock puppets. There's an article, type in U.S. military sock puppet. And it's not just the thing you put on your hand with little, googly eyes and stuff to sort of, sock puppet. The term sock puppet, the military term sock puppet is, there are U.S., this is in The Guardian, this is in the mainstream news. I don't know, how could I believe you? It was in the mainstream media, an article that was reported, but not repeated, or at least not repeated much. But there are good journalists inside that try and do a good job. They find stories, or they say to their editor, can I work on this for a couple of months or whatever, a couple of weeks? Then they finish the story, and the editor, sometimes they'll say no, but they won't do that all the time, and not certainly if you're sort of within the parameters and if you really found something. So they'll say, okay, we'll let this story run. There'll be an excellent article that'll criticize, corruption, power, politics, politicians, big pharma, something, whatever. There'll be an excellent article. And it'll be in the New York Times. It'll be in the Wall Street Journal. It'll be in the Guardian. It'll be in one of these major papers. It'll be on the CBC. The CBC News talked about the disappearing male. That's a documentary called The Disappearing Male, talking about how men's sperm counts have shrunk like 50% in the last 50 years, right? And if it keeps going, there'll be no balls left. There'll be no sperm left in men's balls to make more people. Right? That's that's all the chemicals and blah blah this and that, estrogen, plastic water bottles, xenoestrogen, pumping estrogen to guys or whatever, making guys more feminine against their will, not like they're serious about it and they want to do it well, making girls hyper aggressive with too much estrogen so they get their periods earlier and they're kind of bitchy and out of whack, right? they've had this, right? They've had this for a while, right? They've had this. What I'm saying is that CBC, all these places will do some good work, but again, rare news, reported but not repeated. So back to the Guardian and sock puppets, and back to sock puppets. You might be out there right now talking to robots. Because in the Guardian article, the U.S. military had a bank of 10 computers in front of one guy, and one guy would control 10 kind of shadow fake accounts, or semi-fake accounts. They're his 10 fake accounts. And what their goal at the time in 2011 was to control the discussion, or to influence the discussion around the U.S. military's role overseas, right? So people would type in, this is crazy, need to get out of Afghanistan. And then this guy with his bank of computers would be like, okay, send this auto sentence, need to stay in Afghanistan, or they're going to kill us. Beep, send that through that account. This thing sees this, boom, send that. And he's controlling 10 different computers with, with 10 different accounts. And these are called sock puppet or fake accounts, or they can operate on their own, kind of reacting, see these keywords. So my point is, if you're talking like that on Twitter, on Instagram, on social media, if you're talking like that, and I know people are, I see it, but we can warn people too, right? But if you're talking like that in shorter and shorter sentences, or little words, or little WTF, or IWYR, or IMG, whatever, OMG, and emoji, and it's all the same. You could be talking to robots, and you could be turning into a robot, right? This is part of the corporate clone compliance training, right? Why use emojis? Why? Because it's not your face. It's not your thoughts. It's everybody's happy face. It's everybody's sad face. It's everybody's crying face, right? How do you feel? Do you feel sad? Do you feel happy? I feel sad, and the depths of my sadness may drive me mad. I feel happy, nothing can get me down, even when things are crappy. Right? Now that's me uniquely expressing how I'm sad or happy, right? In my own, just thought of that freestyle singing kind of way, right? As an example, if I was just to use smiley face emoji, or big smile, tears coming out my eyes emoji, or sad faced emoji, that wouldn't be me. That would be everybody. So you're no longer a unique individual human being. And if you talk like that with other people, you may not even be talking with people, you may be talking with robots. And they may be turning you into a robot, because what else are you supposed to do with a robot, right? So we have to warn about that. And some of these websites also will go into that, the danger of social media. They will get the news that's reported, because you're not going to read it. I don't subscribe to the New York Times. So how do I know it's New York Times? Because it was on Infowars.com. It was on whatever. Even Rebel News, Breitbart.com, they all do it, right? The mainstream media has the resources. They have the name. They can go out there and they can get they have the resources, right? If I call, how you doing, BK from Man for Wars Media? Can I sit down with you for an hour to talk to you? Hello? 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 Shit, right? That might be what happened in a lot of cases, right? But if I'm like, yeah, how you doing? Calling BK from CBC News? Yep. Yeah, no, do you mind if we come talk to you? Myself, just want to interview you for an hour. Like, sure, yeah. What time works for you? I'm free on Tuesday. Let me check my day timer here. How about we say I have a break from 2 to 4 before I have to teach a class again. Does that work for you? Yeah, I can be there. Not at 2 exactly, but how about 2:30? Between 2:30 and 3, I'll show up. You just do your thing, and I'll text you on the way. Is that cool? Boom. They can go do the interview. They can get the response. They can get the quote, right? If you're a whistleblower, these days they're less and less and less and less trustworthy by the day. But still, if you're like, I'm going to risk my job, risk my life, risk my freedom, risk my career, I have to get this out because people are dying, people are screwed, something really bad is happening. So even though I work here, I found out this going on, I need to get it out to the public. Where do they go? Hey, Man for Wars Media, what? Can you vlog about this? No. They go to the New York Times, the Washington Post, they go to the CBS News, ABC News, CBC News, Global News, whatever, right? So they have the resources and ability to do really good work, right? They often don't, but they also have to do enough good work to sell the bad work, right? So if you read this thing like, my God, this is a stinging criticism of the Trudeau government. I can't believe the CBC printed this. Well, they seem to be holding his feet to the fire. Then they'll have, one article doing that, and then they'll give you 55 articles that kiss his ass and don't challenge him at all. And they'll use that one article, which is pretty, good, solid stuff, to sell the rest of the shit, right? So these alternative media sites, kind of capture that. So I said naturalnews.com. The last couple I'll mention when it comes to the 8 American sites. Sorry about the Jags, but it's all I think relevant at this time. Because anybody out there who's been a veteran in this game, this is your time to shine, right? But thefederalist.com is a really good conservative website. Doesn't go that deep, but does kind of go wide, and it criticizes the mainstream and how most people are doing things, and how we can do them better. TheFederalist.com. They basically have a bunch of essays there. Don't co-sign everything with anybody, but I recommend them for quality analysis of what's going on today, an American website. And then finally, WND.com, WorldNet Daily, WND.com, which also does a good job with this sort of thing. So there you go. So anyway, so the 4 Canadian sites to wrap up were Rebel News, SpencerFernando.ca, Press 4, that's FOR, Truth.ca, HenryMakow.com, and the U.S. sites were Breitbart.com, TheGatewayPundit.com, ZeroHedge.com, NewsWars.com, WhatDoesItMean.com, NaturalNews.com, TheFederalist.com, and WND.com. And I know that's just a fraction of the great stuff that's out there, because I've seen lots of other great stuff too. But my point is to encourage more people to do this, right? And encourage more people out there who kind of know what's going on to share stuff that puts things in context, right? These days, it's all about tweets. Saw that tweet, pass on that tweet, retweet that tweet, tweet. What's tweet? What's a tweet? A tweet something on Twitter. What's Twitter? Well, Twitter. What is Twitter? The bird's Twitter. Oh, what's a twit? Twit. I don't know. Twit. Stupid twit. Twit basically means stupid. You're basically saying stupid twice if they're really stupid. You're either stupid or you're a stupid twit. It means you're stupid, and you're doubly stupid because you're a twit, right? So I remember cracking that joke when the shit first came out. But hey, I do think it's true. I think it makes you dumber. But the point is that before this latest kind of high-speed information dissemination age where it's tweet, I see this tweet, retweet that tweet, this tweet, comment, oh, this really sucks, Trudeau sucks, so-and-so, Trump rules, send this on, people just furiously kind of barely, sharing things back and forth. Just give me some attention. Give me my adrenaline. Give me my endorphin rush. Give me a like on this. Whatever, right? And people, don't have all the time in the world, but this does cause problems, right? But before this was the age of the longer YouTube video, YouTube documentary, or DVDs, and so on. And so you can still share a lot of stuff that'll help put things in context, like Alex Jones' Endgame Blueprint for Global Enslavement, which is a 2.5-hour film. It came out, I think, in 2010, and it's evergreen. Because if you hear him talking in 2000, I think it was around 2009, something like that. If you hear it's 2 hours, right? So you can get, you're not just like tweet this, so that, send this out. No. It's more like whoa. Let's get a big picture look at what history is when it comes to who the richest people in the world are and why the world isn't a better place with less poor people suffering and more of a, not communist, everyone equal, but less bad things happening when rich people have the power to make less bad things happening, right? So why, right? Now I know they have foundations, but those foundations are often tax exempt, so they don't pay taxes when they have these foundations, and they're used to socially re-engineer society, right? There's a great video, an interview with G. Edward Griffin, and on the tax exempt foundations, I forget his name, I think it's R. But anyway, so look up tax exempt foundations, look up G. Edward Griffin, tax exempt foundations, and you'll find a great interview, 1-hour interview with a man who worked for a U.S. congressman in the 1930s to investigate tax exempt foundations. He got a look at the Ford Foundation's minutes, and he saw how the Ford Foundation's short-term goals were supposedly to help some people and get some good publicity, get some good PR for these super rich people and their companies. You're like, Rockefeller, he's so evil. Oh, but the Rockefeller Foundation does so much good. Oh, Henry Ford, he's so evil. Oh, but the Ford Foundation does so much good for charity, right? That's part of it, right? And part of it might be to help some people. There's going to be some people working there that think that. But the long-term goal of the tax-exempt foundations, according to the minutes of their meetings, as was brought out in congressional hearings, was to socially re-engineer the United States to make it easier to successfully merge it with communist Russia, with the Soviet Union. So you had American free market democracy, capitalism, that's an experiment to control. Let's be innovative. Let's make technology. Let's make robots. Let's make computers and cell phones. Let's make the internet, the international net to trap everybody, right? So, but we need a lot of freedom to do that. You can't have communism because communists can't do that, right? You need to have freedom. So America, lots of freedom, lots of opportunity, lots of free enterprise, low taxes, low regulations, still control factors, still corruption, still not perfect. But they did that so America could build all this technology so they could use it to control the world. And the reason they would want to merge America with the Soviet Union is once they build that technology, then they were going to use the Soviet Union style system of communist control, communist Russia at the time, in the 1930s, as they were designing this plan. They were going to say, we have the technology to control people, and we have the communist ideology to control people, right? So we just need to build up enough stuff to control everybody. Then we'll never worry about them again, right? Or we'll dumb them down, turn them into sheep who will never rebel. It's like a famous quote from one of these guys is, the idea of people rebelling against us is like the idea of sheep rebelling against the idea of eating mutton, right? Which is sheep, like beef, or cows rebelling against the idea of eating beef. You know how the cows going, damn it, we have individual rights. If we don't have a constitution and a place to live and dignity, then none of us deserve to live. And you should ensure that for your health and the health of everyone you've ever cared about and everyone you ever will. Sir. Cows don't do that. Cows just eat for a while and then walk over there and get shot in the head and turned into hamburgers. Right? That's what they're trying to do with us, with the permanent scientific dictatorship. Right? Because then they don't have to worry about us again. Kings and queens always worry about people rebelling against them, and these people just never want to worry about it again, and they want to take total control. And they look at us like we're ants compared to where they are, the super rich people, and they don't like each other. They don't get along. They're jealous that guy's got more money. They're shitting on that guy for having less money. The super rich crazy people, right? And other even moderately by these days, even millionaires, not trillionaires or whatever's at the top, royal family type people, but even millionaires have that type of thinking too. Huh? I'm worth way more than that guy. I'm not worth as much as that guy. Huh? I have a G5 jet. You've only got a G3 jet. Yeah, he's got a G7 jet, right? Like that type of shit is the shit that they kind of get their manties in a bunch about, right? So excuse me. When it comes to this, for people out there that have seen all these great documentaries in the past, right? America, Freedom to Fascism, 9/11 Road to Tyranny, a whole bunch of stuff, right? You can share these things with people, and you can say, look, while we're all on quarantine, and we're at home, instead of just goofing around, watching Netflix, playing video games, pulling your pud, looking at porn, why don't you check out this documentary, which talks about how certain corrupt people want to use stuff like this crisis to screw us, and if we know, it'll help us react to it and stop them, right? Because right now it's, oh my God, coronavirus crisis, we all have to stay indoors, we have to do whatever the government says, and that's that. And it's like, okay, we all quarantine, we're all staying away from each other, we're all staying indoors, but this is getting a little much, right? Based on now that we've all been panicked and scared, and fear has weakened our immune systems and weakened our ability to make white blood cells to battle things and making it easier for us to get sick. Now they've gone through all that shit, right? Now we can sit back and go, wait a second. Yes, we should react to this and we should be careful, but we should also be careful about the overreaction to this, right? And so, sharing a movie like, I recommend Endgame specifically, is great, right? And you can get that out there. You can say, look, instead of tweeting out, this little article that says Nancy Pelosi's a bitch or Trump's a badass, or this little thing saying this, or they're, gun rights here, so that stuff's fine too. But instead of this little, little info digestion, like Pac-Man, if I'm dating myself, I think I'm worth it. So F you, or I think I'm lucky. Anyway, never mind. So Pac-Man just, news story. You can have some bigger picture context. Why is the world like this? Why are the powers that be like this? If they don't work for us, who do they work for? Yeah, they might work for themselves. Politicians are corrupt. It's pretty much known. But is there anything more? Is it just, well, I'm a politician and I get lobbyists, and lobbyists, they take me out for fancy dinners and they buy me, tickets to, maybe on the side, they give me insider trading stock tips, and then my stock portfolio goes from $1 million to $5 million, and then I buy a cottage, in Muskoka, right? It's like, yeah, that's kind of yeah, look, that's part of it. But above that, there's a bigger picture in terms of how they're controlled, why they push certain agendas that seem to be bad for them, dangerous for them politically, bad for everybody in the country where they live. Why the hell would you do this, Mr. Politician? Why? You pissed off all your voters, and you're screwing up the country. So all the people who are supposed to like you are pissed off at you, and the country's a shittier place. Why would you do that? You want to be liked, and you want where you live to not be a shithole, because you live here too. Why would you fuck us? Oh, because you work for the globalists, UN, world super rich people who control the international organizations that are supposed to run the whole world. That's why you're fucking us, right? And so that would put this in context, because otherwise it's just, I heard 500 people today died in Italy, right? And it's like, oh my God, this coronavirus is crazy. And then, oh my God, I heard 200 people died in America. Oh my God, this coronavirus is crazy. I heard they're still opening the borders, letting people in. Oh my God, this is crazy. All this stuff. Why? Why? Right? Having a big picture understanding can help clarify that. So I recommend sharing docs as well. So yeah, there's a bit of a comprehensive for people out there that haven't paid any attention to this shit at all. Hope this helps. For people out there that have paid attention to some of this shit, hope it helps as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts. So as for why Men Can Worldwide Episode 001 Corona Crisis, will Canadian men help their people learn from U.S. independent media? I hope that there are enough data points here to help. Right? And then you can build off this. There's so many smart people out there. And if they were just acting a little more polite, if men would make sure, men with nothing to look at, no one to look at them, don't have to force you to look at them, and make you both quiet and uncomfortable, and don't say anything. They feel guilty, embarrassed, lie, argue. They won't be nice to you if they can't bother you, but if they bother you, you can't just look at it and put up with it and have your pretend bitchy, sketchy zombie girlfriend grind your balls into sawdust while you impotent while they're just a mess near you, right? You can't do that with your own girlfriend, let alone pretend one. You're a guy acting like a pretend bitchy, sketchy one, right? So you have to bother him back. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, things are pretty crazy. Can't really say anything. You know what it is? Oh, excuse me. You know what it is? You better just pretend to drink something. Weird. They make each other uncomfortable, right? And then they make girls and kids do it, because what the hell else are you going to do with them? You can't be nice and, honey, how's it going? Bitch, put up with me. Oh, fuck you, put up with me, right? So, if people, there's so many nice, smart, polite Canadians out there, and people around the world, because this is relevant around the world too. But you got to be a homer in these days and times. Nationalism versus globalism is on the table. This is going to change everybody in the entire world potentially radically, for better or worse, right? It could be out of this. It's like, wait a second. We just came out this pandemic, and now we're nationalists. We don't want open borders. We don't want to let anybody in. We don't want to worry about viruses ever again. We want to be careful about everything. We want to control where we live. We don't want to subscribe to global policies that are implemented globally, which we have no ability to control because we didn't vote for those people, and we can't vote them out if they fuck up, and we shouldn't listen to them. And who the fuck are they? Who do they work for? No, out, right? Nationalism, forget it. Worldwide, every country, strong, proud, free, happy, great place to live, great place to visit, and they keep it that way. And they don't fuck around and fuck it up, right? Or the opposite. Well, we tried this and that, but the pandemic was too big, the crisis was too bad, we didn't share information about it, so everyone thought it was so bad, and if anybody said it wasn't bad, then they were scum. You don't know how bad it is, you don't know how bad you have to feel, you don't know how bad things are, how dare you say anything else, right? And then it's too bad. Canadian government's incompetent. Oh no, they can't handle this crisis. They don't have enough this, they don't have enough that, they don't have enough resources. Oh, America's incompetent. Italy's incompetent. Oh, Australia's incompetent. You know what? We need a global response to a global pandemic. We need a United Nations world government. We need the World Health Organization. We need, because we have open borders and we have people traveling all over the world, and if they're going to have viruses and pandemics, We have to have a global response to it, and your country can't handle it, you piece of shit. And that's because your piece of shit politicians sold you out to facilitate that process. So our politicians are currently going to sell us out, where countries are useless and they're fucking their own people, and the only thing that'll save us is a global government, or fuck the global government, fuck the people behind this, or at least hyping this so much that they're paralyzing everybody as opposed to being sensible about it and optimistic and hopeful and giving us real solutions. And fuck them, we're nationalists, right? So that's on the table, right? And that's why this is so incredibly important. And many people are making videos just like this. And I'm proposing, as part of Coronavirus Fight Club, really simple solutions that even under everything, even under self quarantine, when it's in, like in France they have government martial law quarantine to stop the yellow vest protests, like in China, stop the Hong Kong protests, like in America, stop the Trump rallies, stop all the protests, stop people going out, destroy the economy. This guy sucks. See, blame him, even though he was doing everything better than any president in the last 100 years, right? In terms of like, no, we can cut taxes and cut regulations and make it easier for business, and then people will spend more, the economy booming, we'll collect more tax money anyway. Don't worry about the schools. Well, what if we don't raise taxes? What about the children? Look, if you get the economy going and everybody's making money and buying and spending and investing and opening new businesses and then even the lower tax rate, the 5% instead of 10% or whatever, will be more revenue as a whole, right? Meanwhile, if you say, no, we need to take the 10% tax rate up to 20%, we need a 20% sales tax, 30%, 40%, 50% sales tax. That's the only way we'll be able to pay for your kids' education. And you like the kids, don't you? So don't you dare complain about raising taxes, because otherwise you hate children. Those kids are fucked. 50% tax rate, economy shit. Nobody's spying, nobody's spending, nobody's investing. Foreign companies aren't coming here to invest. Unstable environment, psycho commie prime minister, and liberal government. So jack it up. Guess what happens? Less tax revenue. 50% of everything is the government will take, but it's 50% of a lot less in a shittier economy, right? The only reason you would do that is either incompetence or corruption, and incompetence is one explanation, but corruption makes a lot more sense. Because if it's just it's corruption to destroy the country, as Alex Jones from Infowars.com says, this ain't your old boss hog corruption kind of thing where you got like, well, I'm the mayor of this small town, I'm the sheriff of this small town, and I like a nice town to live in, and I like a nice place to eat, and I like a nice place to visit, and my family's here, and so on. But I want to take a little money on the side. You know what I mean? Yeah, you want to open a business? You want to cut through some red tape? Yeah, just give me an envelope with $5,000 in it. We'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about it. Right? Yeah, it's okay. Boss hog, run this town. Sheriff, I'm the judge. I'm the mayor. I'm the top politician. Yes, I still want a nice place to live. I don't want to screw this up. I love where I live. My family lives here. My kids live here. We go to eat at the nice restaurant every weekend, right? We go to parties. We go to the park. We go play. We go to the, but I just want to make a little money on the side. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to make a little boss hog money. That's different than, we want to destroy your countries to make you weak and unable to defend yourself and desperately beg for a global government because your country is so fucked up. That's different, right? It's different. If the boss hog was like, yeah, I want to take some money. If there's a boss hog in Kentucky, right? In Louisville, Kentucky. It's the mayor. He's like, well, I love living in Louisville. I love Kentucky. I'm a Kentuckian, right? And I just want to take a little money. I just want to make a little extra money. I only make $100,000 a year as mayor, right? I should be able to make more than that, shouldn't I? So I just take a little bribe here and there, no problem, but I still want everything. But if they were like, no. New York wants to destroy Kentucky and take everything in Kentucky, or that would be different. I'd be like, well, actually, I'm the mayor. I'm destroying Kentucky. Dude, why are you doing this? Why are you destroying Kentucky? Well, it's incompetent, stupid, ideology. Blah, blah, blah. That's why I'm destroying where I live. No, there's a bigger reason for destroying where you live, right? That is the key, is there's a bigger reason for destroying where you live. And that's something that we've got to get hip to. And you can do that at these websites. So anyway, We'll leave it there for now. As you can tell, I can go on and on. You can go on and on. We can all go on and on. And it's better to go on and go off than to not be able to. So BK from manforwars.com. Check out the site. Check out the links below, and you can see sort of the specific kind of simple details of Coronavirus Fight Club. You can also see previous videos alluding to how to win the offline InfoWar, online fine, censored digital ghettos, talking to like minds, and so on. But you can do it offline, especially at this time when people are worried, people are curious, people are looking to make sense of this when the government and the mainstream media often aren't doing it for us. This is where you can make moves, even in a semi-martial law, self-quarantining environment where when you're in solitary confinement, you are still allowed out for at least an hour a day of exercise, and you can make yourself useful while you do that. So, all right, anyway, BK from manforwars.com. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, get in touch with questions, answers, financial support as you'd like. Otherwise, I do hope this helps. I do wish us all the best in this crisis, and I hope people make more videos like this. It's not just the TV that can tell us what to do. We can tell each other what to do, or at least make helpful suggestions, and again, help people think for themselves. And then once they can think for themselves, then they'll be free, and they'll think of the best things, and we'll tap into that, massive Canadian brain power and others around the world if we can give them some options. Because there's people smarter than me that can make more sense of this shit than me and do more of this shit than me, more with this shit than I can where I live. And if I get this to them, then maybe they will. And and the same goes for you and where you live too. So with respect to that, Coronavirus Fight Club, it's on. And yeah, hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.